Hello everybody and welcome back to another Saints stream. Today we have Overwatch Collegiate Championships, the University of Washington Esports versus St. Clair College Varsity. Once again, I'm your host for today, Matthias, also known as Moth Eyes, and I am joined by Dan, Mr. Danners.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on here once again. But, of course, we have ourselves an exciting matchup here as we are finally in the part of the Overwatch Collegiate Championship season where things actually, really start mattering. We had to go through quite the season so far, through all of these Swiss rounds, through an additional group stage, and so far, so good here for the Saints. Rather dominant start, but now we're in that double elimination bracket territory. Starting things off tonight, like you were saying, up against University of Washington.
Yeah, the Saints have had an absolutely flawless run. Let's take a look at the current bracket, though, to see what awaits them further on. So today we have the Saints going up against the University of Washington, but, we also might have a second game today if the Saints prove victorious. It's going to be Fisher Esports or the ASU Sun Devils. One of those will be their opponent going at 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, assuming that the Saints do end up taking this one, just seeing that extra or that second match, the possibility there is just extremely interesting. Because in the regular season in the Swiss rounds or in the group stage, we did have to come across Fisher College at one point. However, as we can kind of see on the bracket here, there are multiple Fisher colleges in this bracket. And the one we specifically went up against was the Fisher Freaks on the complete opposite side of the bracket. So Fisher Esports themselves, we have no idea who that can be per se. We've not had the opportunity to play it. And then ASU, that's Arizona State University, who we've had to play twice in the last 3 weeks or so, with each of those games going to game 5. They got the first one, we got the second, if I am recalling it correctly. So it should be exciting nonetheless. It does look like our Saints are checked in, just waiting on Washington here, but still plenty of time to get this match going.
Exactly, and even looking at the further opponents down the line, you see some big, heavy hitters here in the Overwatch space. We have Northwood, we have Illini Orange, we have Rutgers Scarlet Knights, we have UTD Esports, we have Winthrop University, another Fisher team, and then it looks like we might even have a Fisher going up against Fisher if Georgia Tech loses their game there. That could be pretty interesting. Then we have Maryville University, GCU, Overwatch, Illinois State University, and UCI Esports.
Yeah, all these teams just absolutely rather well known in the Overwatch side of things, except oddly enough, I feel like is a team we're going up against first here. Of course, the University of Washington, it's not necessarily been one of those teams that we've gotten to compete against often, if at all, so far in the season. We didn't see them during Swiss or anything like that, at least not on broadcast anyway. But this team is no slouch. As of right now, the seeding-wise, we should be favored to take this one. However, University of Washington did only lose three matches throughout the entirety of this Overwatch Collegiate Championship season, including the Swiss rounds. And one of them, Fisher, fair enough. Another one was, I believe, Georgia Mason University, which, to be fair, that's one of those teams that any given Sunday could actually really take a round off them.
Exactly.
And then their only other one was up against Bellevue, but that was the second Swiss game of the entire season during week 1. So I can kind of understand there being a little bit of jitters and getting organized kind of thing early on in that season. So we kind of jumped right ahead into thinking of what our next match could be. But I would think that University of Washington would love to shut us up right here, right now, and prove us wrong.
Of course, there's always room for upsets, especially this early on. But now we're in the big leagues now. This is what they've all been playing through for all these pools, all these Swiss rounds. I think this could go either way, especially with how the meta has shaped up in Overwatch as a whole. Multiple tanks are very viable right now. Multiple team comps are very viable. It's pretty much just who can play better at this point.
And that's what we basically love to see, right? We don't want to see the exact same composition over and over and over again. We want it to be a little bit actually down to who's playing better just on that day. And especially with Overwatch as of late, seeing some of these times where we're going up against one team, lose one day, win the next day, been seeing that across the board a little bit now that we're in the playoff season, but it's something we absolutely love to see here. Hopefully just a couple of short moments here. Still waiting on University of Washington to check in. I would hate to be here all the way for a no-show, but that is oddly something we've kind of seen across Collegiate as a whole.
Of course.
You worked all season long to get into the playoffs. You're gonna show up in the playoffs, right?
Exactly.
But I don't want to cast shade on Washington. They still got time, but it is funny how many times that's happened.
But, looking on the bright side, if there is an FF today, we still have another game going on today, so we'll get some Overwatch action in there, unless two FFs come through.
And I just got word now that we do have players in the
All right,
lobby,
awesome.
so a little bit of reverse commentator's curse.
Great.
I was calling for the FF to make sure that they did end up getting into the lobby instead of the other way around. But that does mean we do have some exciting Overwatch right around the corner here, and do want to kind of break down some of our own players, of course, because we did kind of see in the Swiss rounds the DPS, the supports, kind of like bouncing back and forth as to who we see actually starting the match and who's on like which roles going into which maps. And specifically for the DPS side of things, so we do see a little bit more of Noxious, of course, but then we see kind of crime kind of slipped in there here and there if it's like a sniper or like a hit scan kind of thing. Is there anything, I guess, with this meta the way it is, where I guess certain players' specialties could like flourish a little bit more than normal?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've seen, like you said, people swapping around a lot more. We've seen Razor swap around, especially between the support and the DPS roles. He's the constant on the team nonetheless. But I definitely think the meta with the DPS is very interesting right now. It's a very much more important role ever since they changed that DPS passive. So seeing a lot more swaps on that DPS side, well, it's reasonable if you want to go for something hit scan or snipey, but I feel like that's not really the meta right now. You kind of just want to go for the Tracer, the annoying picks, the Sombra.
We did see a lot of that, to be fair, yeah.
Just because you want something that can spray really wide, because if one of those bullets land, it procs a DPS passive that's 40% less healing, I think now, or 30%. Which is insane. It's game changing.
I remember supports are having a absolute blast of time with just making those unkillable tanks, which, to be honest, even still sometimes it feels that way, but maybe not as prominent anymore. So I guess some of the players, like say Crime specifically here for the long range hit scans, going to be rather map dependent, but at the same time those flankers are just so powerful. Like, what do you do?
Exactly.
But
it's powerful, especially on the Sojourn, on the maps that Sojourn is good, which is a lot of them. When Sojourn pops off with the overclock, it can be the most powerful character in the game.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard to keep that consistent. But the Tracer can just be consistent the entire time. Your ult is basically just a guaranteed kill. It's a pulse bomb. Just the base kit is that strong.
Absolutely. And then, of course, with Overwatch Collegiate Championship, the one thing compared to some of these other tournaments that we have been in is, I guess, that's hero quarantine period. We do have Venture, new character that is now has been out on the ranked ladder for a little bit of time now. And on top of that, was technically never banned from OWCC, but yet we've never seen it so far in the past rounds, whether it be the Swiss or the group stage. Is that a character powerful enough, you think, to maybe get some airtime here today?
I think it was in the early season, but people were not comfortable enough because it is a very high skill capped character, a lot of movement tech. It's almost like a fighting game character, like old Doomfist. There's a lot of movement, a lot of combos you have to remember. But now, after the nerf, I don't know if we'll see them. We might, if someone really wants to throw a wrench in some plans. It's really powerful on those short range maps, on those objective based maps that can just drill down, get the get out of jail free card. They're very strong. But the main thing that was nerfed was their ult. It got a huge cost applied to it. It used to be very quick and very, very strong, but now the charge time, I think, is a little bit too slow for such a fast-paced hero.
I feel like I've heard people complaining about just getting essentially one shot by this thing too, so fair enough as we're kind of taking a look at some of the abilities. on screen right here, right now, getting a good refresher, and the knockup's just annoying too. I could only imagine.
I think it
being a
does
support.
150 damage per shot. So it's a very strong ultimate. Does not one-shot any heroes now, but if you're a tracer and you have 25 damage, which is like a few bullets here, if you're stray bullets, it'll be a one-shot. So it definitely feels like that.
Yeah, fair enough in that regard. But of course, we are still in progress here of waiting for our players to get into lobby. Majority of the players are here, just waiting on a couple of stragglers. So I think we shall throw this to a very, very quick break, probably less than 5 minutes to get into the game, as we do await our first matchup here in this bracket stage of the Overwatch Collegiate Championships versus University of Washington.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are here on map 1 of St. Clair College versus University of Washington. This is looking to be a big one here. It's the first match in this first round. It's the beginning of a lot of big fights, and already Noxious on the back line taking out their Sojourn, and Tread taking out one as well. Oh wait, that's a different person. That's Noxions.
That's going to be kind of funny as we got Noxious and Noxions on this map here today here on the Antarctic Peninsula, which is not a map we get to see a whole heck of a lot here in the Overwatch Collegiate Championships, and a little bit of a back and forth to really start things off here. Soaks and Razor are going to finally finish a job here and allow St. Clair to get this first initial control on the point, but still, of course, that percentage rolls up slowly, so lots of time for University of Washington to get back in there.
Yeah, they still have a lot of time to breach this first point, but it's going to be very tough. St. Clair went for a much more defensive comp with this May, and now they've succeeded in taking this first point. It's going to be that much harder to push on here. They're going to have to break through that wall, and they're also going to have to play around this ult as well. They get all very, very low. The Saints forced to back off. They're going to have to go around. Tread on the backline, hammering down the supports, almost getting the Ramatra as well. Very, very low. It's just a matter of who can find the picks, and Tread finds one, but Sneaky going to find two, and all the chaos. Pulse Bomb goes out, doesn't find much, but it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Saints as they're all falling down, forced to retreat. It's just Soaks contesting the point, but he's not too far to follow. As we see Tread popping the ult, he might be able to save this single-handedly, finds two. Both supports are down. It's just a Tracer. Can he win the 1v1? He cannot.
Oh man, Noxions was just being such a nuisance to the DPS players and the support line of St. Clair College in that time. We had Noxious trying his damnedest to just shut down that Tracer, but could not get the shot necessary, and that's just so much quick damage, so elusive, and just being able to take the focus away from the Saints over and over again to let the University of Washington get onto that point, start building this percent as we have ourselves another team fight coming right up.
Double shields are up. Now he's popping the fists here, but he's going to be backed off by this May, but the May goes down to Sneaky. Noxious going to find one in return. 2 DPS is down. He's going in on the back line. Noxious finds a good flank, but there's Noxion's continuing to just be that thorn in their side. Can they take him down? And they do, and the Saints retake the point almost at the last second. They get it. Anyways, the last second test from Karen.
There we go, that fight exactly what St. Clair wanted. Tread is finding himself basically just as effective on the kill feed as one of his DPS counterparts here, but the Saints as a whole able to get that one rather convincingly. They have a bunch of vaults on deck, but at the same time, look at the University of Washington. They have 5, and they're going to start charging right now.
They have the window up. Red X having to duel the tank all in his lows up. There's the overclock from Noxious, taking one field down, but there's a high noon from Sneaky. Gonna try and take out Sojourn somebody, but no one's peeking it. Ult gets no use. But there's the annihilation from Ichi, but he goes down as well. The Saints just holding off all of Washington as they can't break through this first choke.
There's no way that the Saints should have been able to hold that as efficiently as they did. They basically spent 3 ults to stop 4 on the side of University of Washington. Just able to find those shots. Noxious able to find some quick shots there on that Sojourn, taking 2 members off pretty well immediately. Sneaky's ultimate just ended up being a zoning ult, getting absolutely 0 value as we are now right onto the overtime portion of this one. One more push here for University of Washington.
Noxious is looking to be the hero here. He finds one pick with his tank. There's a pulse bomb, doesn't find too much. Can he find the kill? Momentarily the field goes up, but no, he finds the kill as well. It's overtime, and it's looking like the point is going to flip as no one here on the side of Saints is there to contest. It's Razor, but he just knows they have time, they have percent to back off.
They were eventually able to take care of Tread, and as soon as he fell, they were able to have their way with the DPS and support line of St. Clair College. So solid job there from the University of Washington to get themselves back on and into this game. About 60% on the board, but they used everything. Not an ultimate in sight. Meanwhile, Saints are going to have 2, maybe 3 by the time this next fight happens on through. And it's going to be on a Tread who took a ton of damage early, but is going to be protected by supports.
Yeah, but he gets burned down through all that damage over time. Noxion's finding one as well. And don't know if the Saints will be able to push on through. They have one good team fight left. They have to wait for Tread to make his way all the way back. Still has his annihilation in tow, so this is the ult they're going to have to play around also, that pulse bomb.
Yeah, absolutely brutal there for Tread to fall so quickly, but at least he did not blow the ultimate. So solid on that regard. But here we go, 99 to 99 in just a moment's time. Last team fight. This one will do the round.
There's Tread using Annihilation with the overclock with Noxious. The left gonna find Tread though. Now there's no tank on the board. Razor going in with the rest of the team, and that is looking to be a team wipe back and forth. Noxion is gonna go down as well. It's just the tank versus all of St. Clair's team here, and they managed to take him down in the overtime. They get the recap. Can they burn the overtime clock down without a contest? This is looking to be very close. Sneaky almost gets on there, but he does not get it. And the Saints get the first point in the map.
Gosh, Sneaky almost appropriate to name with the Sombra charged on through, but just like centimeters away, it feels like, from actually getting on to the point and getting that overtime to trigger. But with that being said, Saints now are going to take points number 1 here in this best of 3 in game number 1. That sounds confusing when I say it that way, but of course, one more point on the board here for Saints to take game number 1. But to be fair, University of Washington, very well fought, extremely close. Now going into this next point, which again, we don't really get to see Antarctic Peninsula very, very often here. So I feel like I'm kind of relearning alongside all of y'all here as we get into a little bit more of a close quarters style.
Yeah, we haven't got to the tricky point here with the moving walls, but this one still should be an interesting one. A lot of high ground to play off of. The teams are already engaging each other here on these rafters.
Yeah, slowly but surely making our way on over to this point. Not unlocked just yet, so nobody going to commit. Actually, Razor is there, but he's more so looking for the flank, and he does have a little bit of an opening here onto the DPS line, but actually some huge picks coming out here from the University of Washington so quickly.
Yeah, Noxious finds one through all the chaos, though, trying to even the scoreline, but it's not going to go quite as well as he falls along with the rest of his team. The Saints losing the first cap, be forced to try and play this one a little bit slower.
They're just immediately taken down, and now immediately right to the drawing board once again. A little bit of a switch up here for Tread, going to be on the Winston compared to the Ramatra this time by. But Noxious, in a couple of moments, could very well have an ultimate on board. One quick pick, and this could easily flip. In fact, they nearly flipped a point already.
And Razor going in on that support line. Tread gets 2. It's going to be huge. A DPS and a support is going to be massive. And now Tread just going for this last DPS, leaving the tank for last, as that Ramatra is just too dang hard to kill if he has some supports. Right now, that Mace just so slippery. They managed to isolate the tank. We're going to find another Renix, finding the tank, finding the support. And now the Maze, all that's left, they fall down as well. And the Saints flip the point at 43%.
Overwatch 2 Winston never fails to surprise me. You've got spread damage, and you have basically a sniper rifle or a railgun of sorts attached to that little Tesla cannon, and Tread is just doing a fantastic job of using that to secure elimination after elimination here. Saints get a hold of this one. They'll have 2 ultimates on deck, maybe 3, as we just see the Blizzard come down.
There's a Blizzard, there's the Cure Coal as well. Big sticky from Noxious, but I don't think it finds all too much as Ichi, Sneaky, and Noxious take 3 out from the Saints. Now Sneaky just getting the tank as well, and just as quickly as they cap this point, they're going to cap it right back.
All right, so Saints did end up using the Kirko ultimates, but that was basically it. And then on the side of Noxians, on the side of Washington, it was only Noxian's Blizzard that really did come down here. And honestly, University of Washington in a very, very solid position, but I feel like it is going to be up to whether Sneaky can actually find any value with this and stop Razor from going absolutely nuts on this Dragon Blade that I know he's just itching to find a support player on.
Dragon Blade is going to need to use up the red time, and the time is now. He's going in, the sound barrier committed. Going to try and take out this High Noon, looking for the Immortality Field. He finds 2, looking for a 3rd, can't quite find it. 9 HP, he goes down. But that's the opening his team needs to go in and clean up as they take out the rest of the team. They all fall down. 5-player kill streak for Tread, a team kill for the Saints, and now at 77%, they're looking to even up the scoreline.
Beautifully done there. Sure, Razor did end up falling, but not before eliminating 2, which just left the door wide open for the rest of the Saints to peel on through and shred the rest of the squad here. And they're even wise enough to still hang on to Tread's ultimate. The Winston, of course, still has that Primal Rage. Gonna be solid for when you're already in a rather defensive position here. And it's all on up to the University of Washington's tank there, Ichi, to have the only ultimate on the squad right now. I don't see them breaking this unless they can get a pick extremely quick here, which Nox is actually looking for the quick pick.
Now they're going in. Ichi very, very low. Immortality Field keeping him up. Razor and Noxious finding 2. Now Tread is going in here trying to take out this Cassidy. Just so Slippery can manage to do it, and now it's just the tank, and they have figured out how to dismantle this Ramatra team. They know they have to ignore the tank, and then they go for all the squishies first.
It was just immediately answered. As soon as that Annihilation got popped, Tread just answered right with the Primal Rage, split everybody up. Nobody on the University of Washington could focus at all. Granted, they are going to be able to touch this for overtime. Emergency Wrecking Ball coming on through here to try and touch the point. Sneaky back onto this character as well to just jump on through, just get that overtime. But again, Razor finds a quick one and might be the turning point here for the Saints.
Noxious might be able to do this right here. He needs to take out one of these DPS, one of these players here on this point. Yes, this Pulse Ball gets the sticky, gets a kill, and now he's going to go in for this Tracer duel, and he wins it, and that's going to be Saints taking the first map in the series 2-0.
All right, there it goes. It was, of course, Noxious again finding that Pulse Bomb alongside the rest of the Saints being able to clean on up there. Doing a fantastic job to secure game number 1 in a 2-0 fashion. Noxious is going to get credited here for the play of the game. Which one? Fair enough. I mean, just look at this. Just absolutely mowing down the University of Washington. Railgun shot after railgun shot over and over again. Just cleaning house at that one. And it just kind of goes to show when the Saints found their footing and got the kind of team fight that they wanted, it just was smooth as butter.
Exactly. Yeah, those micro movements on Noxious's railgun shots are insane. That is definitely one of the many key moments that brought them the win key skills that the Saints managed to have. But, going forward into the next map, I believe it's going to be a payload map. Things are always a little bit different. These first capture the King of the Hill type of maps are much more hectic, much more aggressive, but when you're forced into those specific attack and defense positions on those payload maps, things start to look a little different.
Absolutely. It's going to be a completely different style of game for sure. And then to give some credit here for the Saints as well, this was a map, again, that we just don't play. We never go to Antarctic Peninsula, but yet they were able to take that. It wasn't like perfect per se, but it was still relatively convincing. They got the job done. And now if they get to go to a map that is a little bit more standard, like whether it be a King's Row or something, a sort of a pure escort like Dorado, whatever it happens to be, it'll be something a little bit more practice. Looking forward to seeing what that can end up being. But I think a nice little change of pace here. I think we do have some highlights coming around the corner in just a moment's time.
Yeah, let's take a look. Yep, the first one, of course, going to be Noxious trying to take out this Cassidy. That is not the best placement at all, trying to provide some pressure for the team, but with Noxious in the right place at the right time, takes him out, along with Razor, getting a lot of kills there.
I think that's the other side of the camera work there from the play of the game that we might have saw. And then right here in round number 2, the Dragon Blade there from Razor, right on top of Sneaky, who was mid-ultimate. I don't really think you can move that fast when you have the Deadeye like open. So it was just an absolute sitting duck with 2 players getting eliminated so quickly. The Saints are just able to peel on through. And this is the emergency section at the end of this round.
Yeah, that was a beautiful finish from the Saints as a whole. Noxious just showing how strong that Tracer can be in this current meta.
Absolutely. Just getting that pulse bomb right there to just shut down that emergency wrecking ball as well, because it's so annoying. We know that guy's just going to be spinning around the point, just being absolutely obnoxious. Is it going to do any damage? No. But are you going to be able to kill him usually? No. He's just super, super annoying, especially if he has a support alongside them. But being able to stick the pulse bomb on there, just get him out as fast as possible, really helped swing that fight towards the Saints' favor.
Yeah, that was a beautiful showing from the Saints. But let's see what University of Washington has in store for us next map on Midtown. That is a very interesting map. I've usually seen that go one of two ways, like a lot of payload maps. Usually goes very quickly, no one caps that first point, or goes all the way, a very, very long map.
So is this kind of like mimic a King's Row kind of scenario in that regard? Because we've definitely seen that many a time, but it'd be just a little bit different with the Midtown style. Is there anybody who like really stands out though in terms of maybe a pop quick pick? Because I mean, we know Sojourn is just like fantastic anywhere. Ramatra and Winston's like solid pretty well anywhere. Is there any character in general with Midtown that kind of stands out to you?
We see a lot of Sigma on Midtown, especially that first point. There's a lot of verticality to it, and there's is also a lot of areas where that shield just blocks off the entire sightline. Those, like the first 2 points. The first point, there's an overhang. In that little overhang, you can put up a shield, block that whole thing off. And then if you go into that second point, there's a little overpass that you have to go under, and that shield is also very strong there. So I think Sigma is going to be the tank we might see, as that was a big part of the meta at the beginning of this season. So I think people might have trained on that a lot. We might see that one come into fruition.
It's definitely a character that we've seen a lot, especially even during last season when we had a little bit more, we had a couple less tanks to deal with, I guess. We don't have no Mog or anything like that. But I remember back when Squeak was, or even now when Squeak plays, like Sigma was constantly what he was playing and doing very, very strong at. Tread, I'm sure, will be just as solid, if not or just the same, basically, in this one. Looking forward to seeing how that one goes. Is there anything that you would want to pair up with it, like maybe a Wombo combo, or just Sigma by himself is just fine?
I think Sigma by itself is just fine. It complements the meta very well. You know, you have the Sojourn, like we see. We have University of Washington picking that Sigma. But Tread opting for the run. He likes that bruiser playstyle a little bit more, going for the big swings. You just want someone who can put up a big shield in that first choke.
Yeah, fair enough, but oddly enough here, you have that big old shield, but Farah wasn't going to be able to take any advantage of it. She's going to be up in the skies. But
Same
that
with
is going to
Genji.
be the switch here. Tread is going to make the change over to this Winston. I guess there's still a couple of changes here. This Farah might not get locked in.
Yeah, we're still seeing some changes on the attacker side, but I think we are seeing the Farah lock in. Of course, Noxious, you have to pick the Tracer in this meta. If you don't have a Tracer, things are going to be very tough. And if Washington didn't pick the Tracer, going to go for the Hanzo instead.
Definitely going to be odd here watching as University of Washington tries to defend this one. And I believe that's the Life Weaver on this side of Washington as well, which is something that I feel like we don't see a whole heck of a lot, at least so far in our streaming matches here with OWCC. But so far, so good here for the Saints. Able to kind of progress until Karen there is able to find the shot right onto Red X and immediately take a support out of the line.
That was a play off one of those Hanzo arrows too that are just playing the long range game here. Sneaky finding one on Tread as well. They're going to be forced to back off. The Sigma shield allowing them to just take so much ground. They have a lot of good options here on the side of University of Washington. A lot of hit scan, a lot of heavy damage, but you have to hit those headshots. So we see the Saints gonna try and play around this Genji a little bit more. You need the movement, you need someone to go in, try and put pressure on this backline. That's exactly what Tread is doing. He's going in, he's jumping in. There's the reflect as well. Razor find a way in here, but he can't quite find it. There hasn't been any picks yet, but you can tell bullets are flying back and forth.
And you can kind of see the Life Weaver being kind of cheeky up there as well, bringing a couple members up to that high ground and just being so obnoxious for the Saints to try and deal with. Tread now is going to jump onto the point and start getting this percentage cooking here. And if it's a sniper as Noxious there, you're not going to want to have to jump down and try and contest that. And the Saints are going to capitalize.
An absolute war of attrition here over this point, but it looks like the Saints are going to win it as they have the closer spawn. Ichi not going to give up though. He's just so close to that gravitic flux, and there is the ult from Life Weaver. A little bit too late, unable to save his tank. Tread just continuing to pressure this last remaining Washington member, and he gets the snipe out of the air with the railgun shot, and now Hanzo goes in, trying to contest any time left on the board, but it's not going to go their way, and now the payload has been taken by the Saints.
All right, to be fair there for University of Washington, they did kill a good chunk of time. But now, Saints getting this cart just on the way, going to start pushing with over 4 minutes on the clock to at least get to this first checkpoint. Granted, pretty decent distance, but they need to get to their high ground and find their defensive positions extremely quickly here. Otherwise, Saints might be able to blitz like halfway by the time they even get there.
I will say it now, this map will be decided about how this one choke is played. Nox, Ion, Noation's gonna use their ult here. Not gonna find all too much though. Do a good amount of pressure though to the Saints to get their team into play. Now, Noxious gonna go on the back line here. Take them down, gets the sticky, gonna take out the Genji, and now continue to just put on pressure for the entire team. There is so many ults on the board, the Kiriko ult, there's a Gravitic Flux and the High Noob, but Noxious gets the sticky as well. Both teams dumping everything they have into this fight, trying to make sure they can win the game, but it looks like the Saints are gonna be the ones to take the advantage. Karen annihilating the backline here with their ult, but not gonna find any kills as Noxious just putting on too much pressure. Ichi in the front line taking out the squishies, but it's not gonna be for long as he goes down, and now the Saints are about to touch this first checkpoint.
Man, the Saints were down a player immediately. Noxious finds the ulting Cassidy and just uses the pulse bomb as a counter spell, basically. Immediately eviscerating them off of the map and turning what was a 4-on-5 into their favor. Pushing this, they do manage to get the checkpoint, so they're back above that 4-minute mark here to try and get this thing as far as possible or to completion. And we do actually see a switch up here. Ichi with the focus kind of being on this vertical play. The D.Va, solid pick.
D.Va, very strong pick. Now the rest of them trying to get into position. They want to be around this corner. It's not going to quite happen. The Saints are just continuing to put on the pressure. They're not letting up on that gas. As D.Va trying to find someone they can single out, but the Saints are playing so tight-knit, they're not finding a gap. And now, Sneaky gonna go in. There's a blade from Razor. He's looking to find some kills. He gets stickied by the Cassidy, and he shuts that one right down. And there's a Life Weaver ult as well. Noishan's gonna find a pick as well on the Saints, and now their push has finally been thwarted.
All right, that's exactly the fight the University of Washington needed. The Saints going to be staggered out, not going to be able to find themselves a fair 5v5 for this next little bit, and continuing to be chased down at least until just about now. And now University of Washington will have Noishin's Pulse Bomb to possibly delete somebody. Ichi's right around the corner with the Diva Bomb as well. Sneaky also has the Deadeye, which you know he's got to be so careful of. We've seen how quickly Noxious is able to jump on that when the Deadeye does get popped. Now Saints in a bit of an awkward spot. They are on the card. It is contested.
Bomb
and they're finally going, and the Pulse Bomb, yeah, it did end up missing.
There is both ults committed. He finds the Tracer, looking for another. Ichi gets one on the recall. Now Tread opting to use the ult to put some pressure, shake up the competition, but it's not going to do all too much. A Sneaky finds a one on Redix, and that's going to be their push, just absolutely in shambles.
Man, for the Saints there, that was kind of heartbreaking. You lose the one, you could try to push through, but you literally got the mech dropped on your face there for Razor. That's just unlucky, to say the least there. You don't usually see an elimination done in that fashion, but solid job for Ichi there and the rest of the University of Washington to shut that push down dead. And it is actually forcing Razor to make the switch away from the Genji onto the Cassidy, start playing a little bit more of a long-range play here, as we have the next push coming in here from the Saints, and it looks like Karen is ready to counter-attack.
Here is the counter-attack here. Sneaky trying to land those shots. Can't quite find the shots right now, and that's the Cassidy play. Gets taken down by Tread. And now Noxious is going to go back here. Going to recall be the payload buddy here, and that is not a lot of gap to close.
It's right there.
University of Washington on their last legs. They have to make their final stand right here, right now. They're going to send their Diva in. There's the Life Weaver ult as well. Tread going to be on the one to try and chop that tree down. Gets hindered. Going to be a lot of DPS there. The Saints going to choose to back off.
Yeah, they're going to be sent to the side. Solid job there from the University of Washington, but that is a solid ultimate down. The Tree of Life is gone. So if this does end up becoming just a brawl on the points, that big ol' AoE healing is not going to be there. Noxious fighting the initial elimination here onto Noxious is fantastic for the Saints. Deadeye for Sneaky, trying to do something about it. Actually trying to get lifted off, it looks like, with that Deadeye. And I don't know if it actually did more value than it did hurt. Diva Bomb's going to make things a little bit awkward here for the Saints, and it finds two of them.
Razor needs to use this Deadeye, and quick, as there's only 50 seconds left in the game, but Ichi shredding out the competition. It's gonna just all fall apart for the Saints, but I think they have one more push in them. Like, you're right, Ichi got a Penta.
Almost Quadra.
Yeah.
I didn't see the lone Red X there. Was almost made it out, but did not quite get there, but there we go. Ichi really showed up here on that defense. 30 seconds now here for the Saints to get something done. Noxious switching over to Widowmaker of all things. Must be feeling really confident up against a Diva. Holy smokes, you got some cojones, my friend. And you're going up against two ultimates.
No.
We're actually getting a pause right at the climax of this matchup, it seems.
17 seconds paused.
That is unfortunate to say the least. Looks like there was some sort of tech issue. What a time for that to happen. That was unfortunate, to say the least.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate place to stop it, but, you know, these things happen sometimes. A little bit of a technical issue, I'm sure, but the Saints played it very well nonetheless. Even if it ends right there, that is right at the doorstep, right. Sorry, I'm at a loss for words just because it's so close.
No, absolutely. Like, that first initial point was a little bit resistant, but eventually one fight took through and, okay, all was good. Second one was a little bit more convincing. There we go. We do have it taken on down. So let's actually see the finisher here of this one. 15 seconds, of course, left to go. Saints don't have the ultimates on deck. It's right there, though, so if they have an extended team fight, they could very well win the ult economy war.
We are at the apex of the push for St. Clair. Razor is going in. He has the High Noon at the ready. Ichi, though, such a force on this Diva. We see the High Noon into the High Noon. It's a standoff right now. Can't quite find it. Noxious finding a big pick on the Tracer and the Soundwave. The Saints looking to push just went on through with the Annihilation as well. There's so much pressure on this point. I don't think anyone's going to be able to touch it, but someone does. Someone has to. It's going to be the D.Va. Here's a big brawl between the tanks happening as we see it. But who's going to be the one to stand? Tread's going to not go down. He finds one instead, taking out the Life Weaver. And now in the overtime, it is a battle for everyone's souls here as Tread is leading the charge. Nox is finding one as well. The quick scope on the Tracer of all heroes. Back to back to back. And the Saints cap the point. 3 all the way.
You pick a sniper of all characters that you think you're going to be able to consistently eliminate. Tracer would not be the one that I'm thinking of because of the amount of mobility that she has. Yes, she has a low health pool, but she's so dang elusive to find 2 headshots in such quick succession to clutch the start of that fight and the clutch the end of that one. Holy smokes, Noxious.
Absolutely unbelievable. We're scratching our head a little bit on the Widow pick. We're like, are we sure this is the time when your back's up against the wall? But that was the thing that tipped the scales. That was the thing they needed.
That's definitely one of those scenarios where I would want to be a fly on the wall in their comps. It's like, what makes you think Widow in that scenario? But their game IQ is just way, way higher than mine. That's exactly why they are on the field and I'm behind this desk right here. But now it's going to be University of Washington's opportunity here to do an attack for themselves, and it kind of looks like they just want to brawl.
This is looking to be a big brawl and bash on this first point at least. But if Ichi does go with the Mauga, things going to be interesting. I think we might have to see a switch up because Mauga, I think, can deal out enough damage to pressure out this Ramatra. I don't think any other tank can do that. But no, we're going to see the swip back over the Winston.
Drew Winston going to come on out here, but the Grief is going to be coming out as well alongside an Ana. So this is a very interesting support line from the University of Washington, at least in my opinion. Meanwhile, Saints are running the pretty well standard composition I would say they've been doing for a majority of their maps. Tread's going to be back on that Ramatra leading the charge alongside the rest of the Saints here as they are slowly but surely making their way towards this point, to this choke point again. You have to breach it, you have to breach it quickly and find some space to actually get anything done. But Noxious is going to find first blood here onto Noxians once again.
Yeah, there we go. They find out one. Noxious is going to try and take out this Winston, or at least put some pressure. They find a support all on their lonesome, but they don't end up focusing it, leaving it to the Tracer. They're going to continue to trouble themselves that tank, and for good reason. They take out Ichi, and now Noxious is free to do what he wants. The Saints going to play it conservatively and back off.
I mean, for Redix, whether he's on the Lucio, whether he's on the Baptiste, he may be a support player, but he might as well be a DPS in its own right. Always finding some interesting eliminations or ways to aggressively push people into awkward positions here. And now Noxious, Pulse Bomb in hand, is not going to quite find it, but the fight is on to the point, trying their damnedest to get a foothold here.
Yeah, the Nano was committed onto the Winston, didn't find all too much value, but Noishan's gonna find one on Noxious, and now the Tracer on the backline. No one taking him down. It's all down to Tread to try and win out the duel. Can he do it? I don't think he can, and Razor missing the high noon just barely. It's gonna be disastrous for the team as Ichi takes out Tread. No one there to contest. The Saints not gonna burn out enough time, but they burned out a lot of time already.
I mean, 3/4 of the way there, and it is going to end up being a completion here for University of Washington. Saints didn't necessarily lose the players, but they are definitely out of position. So they're going to fall back, get ready to defend as this cart pushes on through. But they are going to have a very, very tough hill to climb here, as there is going to be 4 ultimates on deck here for the University of Washington. Granted, they do have the sound barrier there from Soaks to try and soak up as much of that damage as possible. And then Tread could very well turn on the kill switch as well with that Annihilation. And it'll take the time to go.
Yeah, there is the Brig ult into the sound barrier. Tread gonna have to deal with this angry monkey. Sneaky gonna try and use the high noon to take down Tread, and he does, uncontested. He couldn't let up that shield because of the pulse bomb as well. So much pressure on the side of Washington, they're just cruising on through.
I mean, there's so much going on that screen. I'll give Sneaky credit. At what point, with all that on screen, does it say shoot. Because there's so many people point blank basically with you there. And able to find the elimination there on the Tread was fantastic in their own right. Going to get so much distance. It's actually forcing Tread to go onto the Winston as well here. So now a little bit of a change up, but they've already made it 3/4 of the way there with the pulse spot from Noxious actually looking to shut this one down.
Yeah, find one, find two. This could be the turnaround for the Saints. Tank and support down. Just a DPS and support left. Now find Sneaky looking for another. They do find the team wipe on the side of University of Washington. I think now we have to regroup, and this is going to be tough. If the Saints can continue to hold it here, this will be the point at which they win. Because this is that last point. You can definitely push it on through just sheer force of will.
Absolutely. And let me add Kiriko to the list of characters there for Red X to be an absolute support assassin on there, finding some headshots there with those kunais, of course. Now the one ultimate on deck here for Razor with that Deadeye, but that is going to be the gist of it. Nothing else in play here. Just going to be a straight-up ability fight and gunfight. It's going to be Noixion's going to take care of Tread, so with the big body there for the Saints completely out of the way, this should allow for University of Washington to go through this relatively uncontested. The Saints are going to try to stall this one out for at least a little bit of time, but I cannot see them winning this one as Soaks and Noxious fall.
I don't see it in them winning it anyway. EG finds one, Tread gonna find another, Noxian's gonna find one, Noixion's gonna find one in return. We see Noixion's just going crazy here, but it's not gonna be enough picks on the side of the Saints. They cap the point and they're gonna continue to push on through. They've gained the momentum back. They have a lot of ults on the board as well. The Saints could answer with a Winston ult of their own, but I would give a lot of value to this high note. Sneaky has proven that it is a force to be reckoned with.
I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on where are these pulse bombs going. Noxious is going to be the first to throw it. It does not find any value. Going to try and pair it up here alongside Redx, who does end up going down. So it is now 4-on-5, not in the Saints' favor here. Ichi and Tread both firing off their primal rages at the exact same time onto this point, and Ichi looking like going to get the better of it here for this side of University of Washington and continue this push.
They're going to continue to push, but it's being contested out by the Saints. They don't want this to go any further. They're just going to have to let it go that much further. Noixion's going to find one on Tread as well. And now this is looking to be an even better push from the Saints. They still have 2:20 remaining. They might be able to take this one all the way.
Right on the doorstep here of this final checkpoint, and they have still so much time on the clock here, over 2 minutes to go. Even if the Saints are able to defend 1 or 2 pushes, it still is going to put them in an awful spot for these overtime rounds if it goes on through. With Noxious on the Torbjorn of all things, it is all up to them now. And with 3 of them, or 2 of them dropping, this is going to be troublesome. That's 2 minutes on the clock here for University of Washington in this overtime.
Yeah, 2 minutes on the clock, 3-3. Saints gonna have to play very quickly and very perfectly. They don't have any room for errors. They need to try their darndest here on this first push. Wait, no. I think first push goes over to Washington. No?
Yeah, because Saints aren't going to be pushing at all. It's just going to be University of Washington, if I do recall correctly. They only need a third of a point. So you're mentioning that the Saints need to play perfectly? Yeah, yes. That's exactly right. We can't even give up a third here in this scenario, which means just one sneaky moment, one team fight gone wrong, and this game will be going on over at the University of Washington.
We rarely see things get this close in these games, but right now it's looking like we might even go to a game 4 at this point, as the University of Washington looking very, very good. It's all up to the Saints to burn all the time they have left in here.
What could also happen as well, though, if the Saints do manage to get a complete full hold, no ticks, this game's a draw, and we just do this all over again. Like, I think that's the ruling behind it. I've only seen it like maybe once or twice in Collegiate Overwatch as a whole here for our Saints. We'll have to see. University of Washington don't want to let that happen. They have 2 minutes to work with. It'd be crazy if it did. But Saints on the defense, how can they hold this up?
We'll see if history is made here today, as Noxious holding the line on the Soldier, and there's no more comfort pits here. It's all just meta all the way around. Razor holding people people in this room trying to burn as much time as they can. Get very, very low. They have to play a little bit more defensively, but they don't want to burn any time. The Winston gets very low. The hindrance going to do a lot of damage over the tread. Immortality Field keeps him up, though. Now we see Razor going on the backline, going for the Tracer duel. He has to win this one out. First use recall is going to be Noishin's, but it's not going to go his way. Razor still healthy, still has the recall. Going to win that one out. And keeping everybody up in the backline as well. We see Red X doing the same. Look over to Tread. It's going to be a battle of the tanks soon enough. Just a minute already burned off the clock. Only 1 minute remains for Washington. Razor gets a pick, though, on the support. They're going to have to play around that. They don't really have time to wait around, though. They have to start making these pushes and quick.
Okay, Redex and Soaks are playing absolutely out of their mind here with keeping all the members of St. Clair alive and in good positions. They've extended that first initial fight to basically drain an entire minute with none of them falling. If any member of St. Clair fall at this point, that respawn, that walk back to the point is going to be so dang long, you're basically out of the game here. So you might as well imagine this fight coming up with no respawns.
No respawns, but a nano boost. Monkey is on the loose, going into the backline, trying to take out the supports, but Noxious gonna find one on Karen. Sneaky gonna find another in the chaos, but it's not gonna go their way. Ichi gonna pop the ult as well. They're committing everything they have here, finding
Ichi.
a double kill. That might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, as Noishins finds one as well. It's just one person there to defend it, and now University of Washington takes the map. And this is a 1-1 series.
Okay, what a fantastic game number 2 here. Well fought on both ends, but congrats there to the University of Washington. And it's actually going to be Ichi, who's just an absolute standout in their own right in this game here. On the Diva play, is this the bomb? It is the bomb that just kind of shuts this push dead, as is able to dive on through right after that. This is the Quadra, I believe, that I was calling out, thinking that it was a Penta. Almost got it, but still, 4 kills on a Diva? Good job, Ichi.
Yeah, didn't get much value on that ult, but the recall to kick things off, that just kicked everything off there. I have to make up for that ult, and then they got 3 more kills after that.
Hey, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be effective. And sure enough, it got the job done that time there, immediately getting 2 people off the board and just letting it so that you can just charge on forward. But now, of course, this is the best of 5. Going into game 3 here, both these teams on a very, very even playing field. Game 1, of course, was the 2-0 in the Saints' favor. Granted, they were both relatively well fought. I was kind of calling it convincing, but I'm thinking back on it now. Maybe that wasn't as convincing as I would have thought. But University of Washington, for a team that this is probably the first or second time I've seen them, definitely impressing me so far here. And it's just showing how much of a run for the money that they're giving the Saints.
They're definitely a force to be reckoned with, but I do have to comment on this one thing. The first map was not two-sided. It was pretty one-sided for the Saints. Of course, some of those points were a little bit closer, but I think that second point was very, very close. So I think this third map might go over the Saints, but these games, they are close, but I think the Saints do have the edge. Just payload is not their type of game mode.
And like I'm trying to think of game 2, like what was the difference maker going into this game compared to the other one? And the only thing that's really like going into my mind here, because again, the defense are basically playing shot for shot with each, or not the defense, the offense, the DPS players are basically going shot for shot with each other. The supports are also playing out of their mind, being able to hold the line and keep everybody topped off, even at like the last possible second. Especially we saw there with the Saints in that last hold. They nearly brought that down to that overtime rounds to 0-0 on the timer, but I just could not quite get it there. But I feel like the biggest difference maker was on the tank line, where Ichi was just able to get that much more offensively involved, as we have a couple of highlights here to go through this second game.
Yeah, we see, I think this is Razor just after he uses Blade. Sneaky, getting a sneaky high noon there, and this is going to be the Ichi quadra kill here. Ichi starting things off slowly with that recall. Not going to Sneaky also doing work here as well.
That's probably the most impressive flick I've seen Sneaky do so far all series right there. Just absolutely sniping them right out of the skies. But yeah, just slowly but surely, the Saints are pushing on through. Did manage to get it, but yeah, here is the quadra coming on through here from the eyes of Razor. Ichi getting them too nice and quick, and then immediately just charging on through.
I think they might have got multiple multi-kills there as well on that D.Va. Just an absolute force to be reckoned with. Noxious, though, did a good job at holding the line here with the rest of his team, but that nano on the Winston just provided so much value. They were able to barrel on through.
And just so much offensive pressure, just seeing Ichi in the kill feed over and over and over again here. And then Noishin's doing a fantastic job with the whole... Let's be honest, both teams are playing fantastic, but just so far, all tied up 1-1. Game number 3 is right around the corner. Not 100% sure as to where we're going in regards to the map just yet. We'll figure out soon enough here. But in theory, this should be... hang on a second. This should be either Escort or Flashpoint, depending on the league. And
Could be Push,
off the top.
right? Yeah.
Because if this was... It is going to be Push. Oh, it's Push.
Yes, it's Push.
Okay, so... Too many leagues with too many different map rules here, throwing me off here. But we get to go play with a little robot and push that payload at wherever it may happen to go here, as we just happen to be hopping into the game actually right here, right now. Connection issues have been fixed, and off we go. Game number 3. We're all tied up at 1. Let's see who takes this.
Yeah, who's going to take the lead here? Now we shall see.
Dallas there on the Life Weaver once again as well. So a character I don't see too often, but Dallas seems extremely confident on this pick.
Oh yeah, they're using a very interesting mechanic there. They use the elevator with the high noon to try and get it some verticality to its LOS. It's an interesting play, but
it's cute.
Hasn't seen much value all too much yet. First control, the push robot goes over to Saints though.
Yeah, they're going to get the hold of it for just this moment here. Treadu's going to try and use it to body block for a little bit of time. And okay, Ichi just got immediately shredded, which means that this is going to be the door opening here for the Saints. As long as no flankers take out any like DPS or support line, the Saints should have free reign to push this payload.
Looks like they might be able to take one out, but Crime taking out a support is just continuing to put too much pressure on Washington. They have to regroup once again for another fight. They can't go in one man down, especially when the Saints are that close to that first checkpoint.
I mean, that situation we saw in the first one where Ichi just got deleted, like, we've been giving the tank lines props for their ability to be defensive as well as offensive, but you can see what happens when even the tanks get caught out of position. They can be exploded on just as quickly as any other character if they don't have the back line to support them. As the next team fight finally coming underway, the Saints got about 50 meters on it, but now here comes University of Washington.
University of Washington exploding onto the scene here, trying to take a pick here, and they just about might. Tread doing his darndest to keep everybody at bay. Noxians, Notions, and does have a pulse bomb at the ready, along with the white Life Weaver ult. Might be able to do it here, but there's going to be a high noon coming out from Crime. Doesn't find anything, though, and gets taken down by Ichi. There's a pulse bomb taking one down on the side of Sneaky, but he dies for it. Is that going to be it? It's just trades back and forth. Saints unable to find any footing here. He can't save his support as Notions finds another Tread anti. Gonna just be bursted down to nothing. And now Saints lose control of the robot, but there's a contest coming out, but not for long from Soaks.
Kareen on this Ana is actually like just low-key shutting down everything that the Saints want to do. They have so much healing on their own side, but yet get the right purple, get that biotic nade, and just cut all of the Saints healing as a whole. And they're just dropping. Tread there, again, big tank character just getting immediately shredded, and there was no sound barrier time, I think, to save them, so immediately getting taken down. And again, even before this fight really gets the opportunity to get underway, Saints are kind of scrapping for some health packs.
Yeah, they already need to go back and heal, but they still didn't make all too much progress before they're putting the pressure on Washington. The Monkey's going in, but that's going to be a very dangerous play. Sneaky going to use that pressure to use his high noon. Saint's going to peek out, and he just barely does not die, as that circle was not all the way filled.
Yes, Soaks barely scraping by at that time here. We're going to see the Primal Rage come here out of Ichi, and it just knocking everybody around on the high ground. What a mess to try and deal with. But so far, the Saints have been able to withstand and continue to try to get to this point. But actually, Noishitz has been there on the payload this entire time, pushing it forward, is about to pass what the Saints have, so they do take the lead in this match.
take the lead. Crime going on the flank. Gonna try to find some off angles, put some pressure on that way. But with the checkpoint being taken by Washington, they're gonna be able to put so much more pressure on the Saints from now on.
Gosh, that's just so cheeky there, using the Life Weaver to get up to this high ground positioning at a pace that no one would expect. You'd usually think that they'd have to walk a long way around to get there, but immediately getting up there so quickly is definitely going to throw things off. Purple again getting stuck onto the DPS players of the Saints. Saints have to get there. They do have control of the bot for now, but can Washington stop them in their tracks?
Don't know if they will be able to, but Noishin's gonna be the one to try and do it. Tread finds the tank, but Sneaky finds one. Noishin finds another. The DPS might as well be the tank as they just take everybody down. But Tread gonna continue to put on pressure. He's not gonna let them push it back to the objective. Karen gonna get life gripped all the way back, saved by their teammate, but will it be enough? No. Tread finds Sneaky, gonna continue to just lay on the pressure, but Tread getting very, very low, needs his supports badly, and Soaks is there to answer.
I mean, it feels like no team really won that team fight until maybe right here, right now. The Primal Rage, if Saints can hang on through this is a win, baiting this out in its own right, as it does not get any value here. And we are going to once again have ourselves a pause into this one here, about halfway through game number 3. Some sort of additional tech issue at hand here. But this is just game 2 all over again in terms of evenness.
Exactly. This is definitely much more even, but the Saints, I think, are going to have a really hard time going into the rest of this game because they were unable to cap that first objective. That gives you the advanced spawns, and that is so important, especially when it's just a matter of racing to the objective in this game mode.
Yeah, racing to the objective, which, to be fair, the Saints have usually been there first, and they were able to get that first initial push in game number 3 here. However, with how quickly that the University of Washington squad have been able to take some either retake positions, some high ground positions, whatever it be, they're coming at the Saints, it seems, from some rather odd angles, and it is forcing the Saints not necessarily focus on the same target over and over again. So these team fights are dragging out. They're not necessarily finding winners in these team fights. Like, there is trades, but again, now right before it paused, this was a back and forth battle, but nobody actually had really good control of the bot. So close.
Yeah, it's just absolute chaos in these team fights every time. These teams are so evenly matched. You never know who's going to come out on top. But I feel like the Saints are having to commit more ults than the enemy team there, Washington, to be able to break through and get any sort of progress on their side. I think Washington is just having a lot more momentum in their game than the Saints.
Absolutely. Now, unfortunately here, it does seem like this is a bit of a lengthier tech pause. So going to be just the briefest of opportunities here before we do get back into the swing of things. But of course, game number 3 is still right around the corner from completing here. 5 minutes still on the clock. Both teams hovering around that 50 meter to 60 meter mark. And it was the lead for Washington. And actually, there we go. Going to hop right back into the swing of things, kind of mid-team fight of sorts. This is exactly where they were. They traded back and forth. Nobody in control of the bot really, though. Currently contested. The Saints don't seem to have the high ground advantage this time by, and just neutral footing all around.
Yeah, it's neutral all around, but the Saints actually making some good progress back to the middle. Once again, just as I say, that goes back in the hands of Washington, and a huge high noon taking out the support, or actually taking out a DPS on the backline. Noxious going to take out a Tracer, though, quickly evened up. Now it's all up to Noxious to try and push this one on through. Take the pick on the Cassidy, open up some sightlines for the Saints. There's the Life Weaver ult up top, but it looks like it's Noxious gonna be the one to carry the bot all across the map here. Tread finding a double kill. Meanwhile, this is just an absolutely chaotic match. The tank taking on the supports in the backline.
Wow.
They're just trying to stall out for time at this point and hope the Saints can get the advanced spawn.
This is definitely not what you would expect. It's showing us Tread is getting everybody, but what I'm assuming is happening here is that majority of the Saints are just blitzing the support line of University of Washington. Meanwhile, one Saint was just on the cart the whole time, or on the bot, and just pushing this thing nearly to the point of passing the University of Washington. Right around the corner, just about to break that 60 mark, is finally going to be contested. Tread is leading the way here alongside the rest of the Saints. Looks like Soaks was in tow there, trying to keep him alive. Ichi now going to try and dive on in. I would imagine he's just looking for that opening. Dive on in here, and with Neuschen's finding one. That could
Oh, huge sleep from the enemy. Anna taking out the ult. The high noon just absolutely canceled out from Crime. That's a lot of pressure gone. And there's the ult from Ichi as well. He's going to go in to the back line here. Try and hold it on, but a lot of damage from the Saints. It's not going to get all too much value.
Gosh, perfect little play there from University of Washington, but actually this is not done just yet. It's going to be Noxious taking care of Ichi, and Tread found Sneaky as well, and that is going to allow for the Saints to push on through what looks like a rather lost team fight for them. They found their opening, catching Washington overextending, and I was just about to give them credit because they were really basing their aggression around Ichi, and once he got into trouble, that's where the life grip from the Life Weaver just brings him back to safety. But before the Life Weaver was ready for another set of cooldowns, Ichi dove in again, got taken down, and the rest of the Saints were able to go on through.
Yeah, Ichi was not wanting to be held back right there, just to throw back in the action. Did not go too well. Crime finding Sneaky though is going to be a huge opening for the Saints. Now they don't have to worry about that hit scan, that magnetic grenade. The Tracer now has so much more freedom. Neuschen's almost getting caught off guard there, just barely gets out, recalls, but gets taken out by Noxious nonetheless.
Yeah, this Tracer duel has just been happening this entire game, and it's always been extremely interesting to watch because it is not one-sided at all. Both of these players have found themselves on the better end and on the bad end of that duel multiple times here. Tree has been coming out here, though. This teamfight's about to go down.
Yeah, Life Weaver locking one of the players in there in that tree, trying to make sure he can't go back in. Crime finding one, Soaks finding another. Sticky coming out from the Tracer, not going to do all too much as Tread has his supports right near him. Noxious finding another, and this might have just been game right here, folks. They just have a little bit more to go, but the pressure on the Saints is massive. 3 ults they can commit, they could end it all here. Just one more team fight possibly remains. There's the window, there's the ante, just needs to stay up. Crime trying to take some ground here, gets the Life Weaver, and that's a massive pick. And now we see an ult committed as well from Tread and Crime, taking them all down. This is looking to be a win for the Saints. They don't even need to play on time. They take it all the way, taking the series to 2-1.
And very rarely do we see push go all the way like that, but the Saints just had the momentum in their favor. Tread gonna get credited here with the play of the game. I'm guessing it's one of these last plays here, right where the tree was blocking the person in. Did not matter, just charged on through, found one, and found the squishies as well. This is definitely a heartbreaking moment there for the Ana. They had the sleep, but they shot him anyway and just kept charging on through. Ana main's worst fear in that instance. I feel for you.
Exactly, it's a rough position to be in, but the Saints are in a pretty good position in this series now, 2-1, especially with how chaotic and close these battles are. You can tell these teams are very, very close in skill level, but I think the Saints are now figuring out that there's a method to the madness. They can try and figure out what makes Washington work and use their tactical knowledge or tactical advantage there to try and get them those wins.
It definitely felt like some sort of switch got flipped in that second half of that map, because prior to that, everything so far this entire series has just been back and forth. But something about that last half, just Saints were either on something else, or University of Washington were falling behind one way or another. And Saints just had the answers, and I guess that's kind of the risky part of what you're playing a support line as risky as Life Weaver Ana is. You don't necessarily have much escape or mobility, and we do have some highlights for game number 3 coming up right here, right now.
Yeah, let's see. Tread going to be going in here, but I think this one is going to go over to Neuschen's. He just popped off time after time, but no, it's very back and forth. All these teams fights are, as you can see, Tread got one on the tank, but it wasn't enough to change the tide. The double kill comes out for Washington.
Yeah, basically starting that fight, and it was Saints sure got the first one, but then this is kind of the point where things start getting messy, right where that Life Weaver ultimate came on through, and nobody else was really able to capitalize on the side of University of Washington. And it didn't feel like it was a sweep really at any point, but just player after player was getting picked off over and over again, to the point where the Saints was just on the doorstep. And that Deadeye through the window, just so devastating, considering you don't even need to be fully charged for that to kill certain characters. Fantastic job there from Redix and Crime to link up on that one and really get the ball rolling on that last team fight.
I'd say if the Saints can take the momentum they had in this game and bring it into the next, this might be the end of the series. Depends on what game mode we have next. If it's a flashpoint, I think the Saints take it. If it's not, if it's a payload map, I think this will go the other way.
I try to predict where we're going, but I've been wrong so far in regards to which game mode it is. So we'll get a word momentarily as to where in the world are we going. And Suravasa Flashpoint is going to be the case.
Okay.
So, all right. So map number 4 apparently is Flashpoint in this league. So many leagues, so many different rule sets. But Flashpoint is, of course, extremely exciting. Of course, for anyone who may not necessarily be familiar with the game mode. I mean, it's been around for a little while here, but here on the Saints channel, I mean, we've seen enough Call of Duty Hardpoint, and this is basically Hardpoint, so to speak, but just takes a little bit longer. This has so far been a game mode that the Saints have been rather confident in, I would say, but I've never seen University of Washington play on this, so we'll see.
It is a game mode in which a lot of things can change. It's definitely the comeback game. I've seen teams quickly get the first 2 points uncontested, and then the enemy team somehow manages to get the reverse sweep. We've seen the impossible happen time and time again on these flashpoints, but I think this will be very close for each flashpoint. But I still think I have faith in the Saints. They'll be able to take it right here.
Interestingly enough here, no Life Weaver this time here for Dallas, so something a little bit more traditional. They just need that speed, which, to be fair, for Flashpoint is exactly what you need. Get into position where you're the one doing your, I guess, your post-plant positions compared to your retakes, if I were to use other FPS terminology. But as the brawl continues, 4 points number 1 is about to be unlocked. So far, Ichi actually and the rest of University of Washington look like they're in the sweet spot so far.
They're looking like they're in a good spot so far. Will they be able to hold it? A few picks come out, trades back and forth. Support down, tank down, but that will be just enough. The Saints able to get a pressure. They're gonna be able to be the first ones to potentially cap it.
Okay.
Am I speaking too soon? Is this a caster curse? Noitians finds one. Nox is gonna find another right back. The tank being taken down is huge. If they can just hold this point, they'll be able to cap it. It's just a matter of time, though. It keeps getting contested, and then both teams playing it so safe have to back off. Nox is gonna give the trade right back. It's trades all around, but it looks like the Saints are gonna be the ones to just barely cap it. No, this Lucio doing everything he can, but no, goes over to the Saints.
That team fight lasted forever again. It was just trade after trade, but nobody was getting wiped until finally that last moment there, Saints able to capitalize and start building percents. And as we can see here on Flashpoint, that percent builds up extremely quickly. So already about 30% of the way there. In terms of ultimates, we do have False Bomb, and we're going to have a sound barrier there for Soaks. Meanwhile, a lot is going to be relying here onto Noitians to find a pick with this False Bomb, as they do wait for Dallas sound barrier as well. Extremely even fight for the most part here. Like, basically identical in terms of ult economy.
Very, very close fight all around. Crime peeking around the corner, trying to put pressure there. Not going to find all too much. The Saints do have the ult advantage going into this fight, of course. Washington not too far behind. They commit the window. Didn't get all too much value aside from the pressure. But now there's the sound barrier being committed on the side of both sides, actually. It's a battle of the tanks. Noitian's going to find a big old pick there. But now the time is ticking. It's only 4 seconds left on the map. Noitian's finding one, Dallas getting another. This could be a major swing for Washington as they take all of them down and flip it at 99.
Oh gosh, about as even as it could be going into that fight. but it is going to be University of Washington taking it so far. Not going to let Saints get point number 1 for free here. 20% on the board now. 2 ultimates on the board for both sides. So once again, dead even going into this next team fight. And to be honest, if the Saints do lose this next team fight, they very well could just end up passing this flashpoint over to the University of Washington with how quick that percentage builds.
That's the chaos of Flashpoint. You never know which way it's going to go. Ichi, though, does have the Annihilation on board. Sneaky with the high noon. Things are looking pretty good for them. And throwing that grenade, doesn't find the stick. But now the Saints putting up a lot of pressure for not having the ult on their side. Sneaky gonna clear out this site entirely, just buy time for his team. He doesn't find any picks, but that's a good use of pressure. And now Ocean's already on the back line, looking to find something. Will he be able to do it? No, Noxious putting up too much pressure. Now this is looking like it's going to come down to a 99 to 99. There's the Annihilation popped from Tread. He's trying to outlast his opponent there. He finds 1, finds 2. It looks like it's going the Saints' way. There's only 1 left. It's going to be the Tracer going for a last-second contest, but it flips over. No one there to proc the overtime. Point 1 goes over to the Saints.
Okay, we're just going to wait till the last possible second and send it, why don't we? Beautifully done there for the Saints to just death ball their way of sorts onto that point and get that team kill, completely wipe University of Washington off the map. They did have to use quite a decent amount of resources to get that job done, however. Only the 1 ultimate now on board. That is going to be the window there from Red X. Soaps will have the sound barrier in a second's time as well, but nothing offensively, really, I guess, unless you count the window. But Red actually getting some decent damage there onto Ichi and Sneaky. Gonna make them go back as the point is just about to unlock.
Yeah, point is unlocked, but no one's on it. It looks like we're gonna have a team fight first. That Lucio, just 1 hit, but it looks like Noxious gonna be the one to clean that one up, down to support. The Saints gonna cap this point first. Tracer on the point, gonna be slippery, just playing the contest game, trying to get the Saints in a bad spot, and there's the window. Now, it looks like they might have to give up first contestant here as Crime finds 1 on Sneaky, and once again, we find a pause.
I was gonna say, I think I know what that tech issue is. I don't usually see Sneaky stand still for more than a split second, and it looked like he just straight up stopped in that regard there. Crime finding the headshot, and yeah, call the pause there. So having a handful of tech issues today. I don't know what it is. Is there a full moon this Friday or something? What is going on? Why do we have so many tech issues? But it's just, is this some sort of way to build anticipation?
Maybe, yeah. They're doing it for the story. They're doing it for the suspense.
Or maybe they're actually giving us an opportunity for a commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that. But that would be odd to say the least. But unfortunately, they're for Sneaky. I'm sure they'll reconnect shortly.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. But so far, the Saints seem to be in control. They're having a really good time. Of course, these fights are very close. It went to 99 to 99. But they are able to close that one out. And they do seem to be the pace setters for these points.
Absolutely. I'm being told that Sneaky's game is dying, quote unquote. So, God knows what that entails here. We need the Lifeweaver on that stat, apparently. But could have ourselves a couple of moments here. But just again, the anticipation building for this Flashpoint match. So, sure, Saints got the first points, but it was about as close as it could get. That was a very, very final possible push. They needed to execute that perfectly. Thankfully, they did. Very, very convincing team wipe there. But if one thing went wrong, this could be a whole different game.
They're winning, they're setting the pace, but they aren't in total control. They are just the first ones to set up the fights, make sure the scenarios are hopefully in their favor. Like they're setting the pace for the fights, but they're not the ones always winning them, unfortunately.
Absolutely. But, of course, do love seeing now that we're so far into this postseason that we are getting these teams that are just so competitive here with us. Because, I mean, we're all here for the Saints, of course, on the Saints channel for the most part. Unless you're actually here for University of Washington, then we welcome you as well. But I love seeing our Saints challenge, so we are absolutely getting that here from this University of Washington squad as we're back into game here for game number 4.
Game 4, potentially our last game. The Saints can get 2 more flashpoints. It looks like they're already in control. They're second, already 30% on the board, third of the way there. Sneaky getting caught out, not going to do too much though. And there's the high nude committed from Crime, just trying to push them back even further.
Yeah, going to push them back, just getting a little bit of extra time on the clock here for the Saints, halfway through this point. pretty well uncontested. The sound barrier is possibly going to be the go button here. And with an elimination there on to Red X, this is the time for University watching the move.
Yeah, Sneaky finding one. Noxious going to find one right back. There's the Annihilation proc from Tread, but he's not going to find all too much value. Forced to get out, and now, no sight, ult to pressure the site. It's not going to look too great for them. They're going to just have a boxing match here between the Ramatras. This point is looking to flip at 90% or so once again to Washington.
I mean, the Saints might be finding some initial picks, or rather, like going down to an initial pick. But it seems like they've been able to win those 1v1s for the most part, to be able to hold their ground, even if it's an unfair team fight. But good on the University of Washington. They may have not necessarily got the eliminations until this very moment, as we actually now see Tread and Cry tear it through everybody. But just like that, that's what they give props about University of Washington's positioning. Well, they're just positioned to the graveyard this time, as they just got taken out right off the board. That's going to be point number 2 here on this flashpoint for Saints.
Yeah, point number 2 already going to the Saints. They only need one more flashpoint to win this next one. It's just a matter of time before they get that last one. Unless Washington can really show us something different, but just looking at the stats, looking at the ultimates on the board right now, I would have to hand it over to the Saints. They almost have somebody, they almost have High Noon, and they almost have that Annihilation as well. University of Washington needs to use this window and a pulse bomb with absolute precision and timing to try and take this one for themselves.
If there's a little check mark for momentum, I would put it on the Saints side as well. It just seems to be finding the picks that they need. Possibly the series-ending flashpoint here, if the Saints can manage to secure this one. Sneaky just going to dive right on in. Kareen actually, and the rest of University of Washington just absolutely eviscerating the Saints. One after another. They managed to wombo combo that one way or another, and they have control of the point.
Yeah, a very decisive fight from Washington. Very little resistance from the Saints. Of course, in the beginning, it's kind of just like a trench warfare there, firing it back and forth. But now, once they jumped out, made the mad dash, Washington just absolutely obliterated the Saints, and now you have to try and fight a losing battle here.
Absolutely, and the pressure is on here for Washington as well. But of course, it is their winner's bracket life on the line if they cannot hang on to this.
Wow.
And with a big pick like that right onto Ichi, that's huge. Crime going to open the door and take care of this first point now, or this third point now, and get control of it. And the Saints get their opportunity to put up a defensive fortification.
Yeah, this is looking good for the Saints. They have a lot of defensive ults in their bag as well. They have the Sound Barrier, they have the Annihilation. Of course, used correctly, that Pulse Bomb can be pretty crazy as well.
Absolutely. And with all those ults on deck, I can imagine this is going to be rather difficult here for the University of Washington, especially if Sneaky gets taken out extremely early. That is going to be the Deadeye popped right underneath of that invulnerability matrix. But not going to find any value. Way to get out, but the Saints don't mind. They're not the ones who has to push the point at this point here. This percent after percent is going into their favor, but they do manage to lose their tank. Sneaky coming in clutch, but there's the Pulse Bomb. Noxious going to even this one up just like that.
Yeah, evening it up out of nowhere, and now it still looks like it's going to flip over to Washington. The Saints forced to back off, especially with that Annihilation. Ichi getting a triple kill, seemingly out of thin air, just catching the Saints off guard.
Okay, that was one elimination that just turned to the 4. Beautifully done there from Ichi and the rest of University of Washington. That's been basically their biggest opportunity and their biggest buff of sorts, is finding themselves into good positions and giving themselves some pretty high probability plays to go on through. The momentum was not in their favor for the last little bit, but they might have found it right when they needed it, especially if they get 2 quick picks like this.
Yeah, they're going in Sneaky, finding one on Notions as well. It's going to be a very hard fought battle, but the Saints are going to just utterly lose it. And now, first point goes over Washington, and this might be the start of a reverse sweep for them.
Man, you're just saying how flashpoints tend to go 0-2, and then all of a sudden the other team starts coming the other way. And we've seen Saints have heartbreak on flashpoint as well. So this might be the most elaborate commentator's curse that I have seen in a while, or just a speed bump on the road. What we'll have to see momentarily. Very even in regards to ult economy. It's going to be Notions with the Pulse Bomb alongside Crime with the Deadeye. I think I'd rather have the Pulse Bomb in this situation here, especially if I'm not in the post plant kind of position here.
It's a high noon pop from Crime, just trying to guarantee the first point capture over to the Saints, and he burns enough time to do it.
Making me eat my words a little bit, actually using that as the stall tactic to get control of the point. And like all in Saints' favor is going to be Sneaky's turn now to pull out the Deadeye. Just looking for maybe a support, and he does find two. Beautiful shot there from Sneaky.
And now with the Saints just in shambles right now, they're all going to fall down. A point's going to flip over to Washington, and now they have to play for the retake.
Beautifully done there from Sneaky and the rest of the University of Washington. Able to find the 2 picks off that Deadeye and just immediately charge right after the fact. Immediate retake here onto this point. And now in control. They find themselves a good safe spot to set up here. They do have the sound barrier in case the Saints wanted to start dumping ults onto the point. They have 3, they'll have a 4th as well by the time this team fight actually really gets started. It's gonna be all on to the Dialef, and unfortunately there for Sneaky, immediately picked off by Crime. Can this be the go button here for the Saints to get this control back?
And they're all flooding in. Noxious gonna go on the backline, miss the sticky, and that's gonna be key here. He needs to take out that Baptiste, and he does. But as he does that, 2 of the Saints fall, 3 of them fall. Pops the Annihilation in a last-ditch effort to close things out, and it might have been the right choice. As it's just Noisians here, he's gonna have to back off.
I mean, I don't think this is done by any means, however, though, like, sure, that Annihilation was fantastic to zone all the University of Washington away. Let that stop, and now Ichi has an Annihilation for themselves. Just going to be waiting for the opportunity where they pair up with the rest of their team, dive on in, while the rest of the Saints, I think, are still trying to run back from the respawn. Where does the opportunity come around here? It's 80 to 75 now on the point. Whoever honestly gets this next team fight basically wins this thing.
And now there's a high noon from Crime looking to stall out even more time. And now the Saints have stretched into the point lead. It's going to be one last team fight coming up from Washington. Soak's finding a key pick at the right moment. This could be crazy. There's the Annihilation. Or no, Kichi still has the Annihilation in his back pocket, but they're all falling down. Noxious going to find one. They need someone on there to contest. It's going to be Ichi popping the Annihilation. But he goes down in no time at all to shred it. Grind finds one. Rex finds another. And the Saints take the series 3-1.
Unfortunate there for Ichi. They popped the Annihilation so late that they are already down to a quarter HP at that point. And it's such a risky position. They hung on for a while, but not long enough. Saints are going to take this one. Tread going to get credited here with the play of the game. Let's see.
Let's see it. There we go. Finds one. Find another. And he does. Look at that. Soaks needs to get play as well. He finds a double kill, and he's on the support.
Absolutely. Of course, just beautiful to see just the team cohesion across the board here. Saints in a fantastic series, going to take this in 3-1 fashion. Still, big credit there to the University of Washington, though. Very, very well played matchup. And I'm kind of thankful that you just get the opportunity to play in the lower bracket as well, that this isn't just single elimination. Heck, there might be a chance that we see us sometime later down in the tournament. So good luck with your next matches. If anybody who was here tuning in for the University of Washington, also thank you for tuning in. Always a pleasure having teams from both sides here on the stream. But what a match, eh?
Yeah, what a match. But now that they did not make that one easy. University of Washington made that such a hard-fought victory for the Saints, and now they have to try and take that momentum they've gained off of that going into the next game, which should be relatively soon. But now we're going to see even more replays coming out from the side of Washington.
Yeah, so this is going to be the first initial flashpoint there, because, yeah, it looked like the Saints are basically going to be able to take this one over, but something just went wrong initially on the defensive side of things. Noisians really got things started here, and Daleth there on the Lucio as well, just messing with the Saints' front line and back line to the point where it was just DPS, and, I mean, I don't care how good your shot is, you're probably not winning that fight. So they were able to flip this thing and get this extremely close. Saints were able to hang on to it for the first little bit, but then the second point came around.
Second point did come around for them, and wow, what a round that was. I mean, just picks back and forth. The Saints very dominant on that second point as well. Third point, not so much, but that was just insane. But I'm even more excited for the upcoming matches here. We could have the grudge match, the third match in a row for ASU. Like you said, it was back and forth. Excited to see. We might know now if we take a look at the bracket.
I do actually know. So in the match of Fisher Esports versus Arizona State College, that did go to Fisher Esports.
Oh.
So we are going to be going up against them at 9:30 is the start time. We're taking a quick look at where we stand right now. So that is basically any moment here. So should not be too long of a wait here. Fisher Esports took that in a 3-0 fashion, so they've been waiting for a little bit. But winners quarterfinal now in this Overwatch Collegiate Championship. Saints doing a fantastic job so far and guaranteeing themselves to, in a worst case scenario, play on Sunday, if I do recall correctly.
Yeah, worst case scenario, that'd be decent. They can still keep on going, but they don't want to lose this early. They want to make it as far as they can. And sure, some of the other Fisher teams gave them some grief, but I think we took a look at the rankings, and that Fisher Esports was not the highest ranked Fisher team, was it?
That's the weird thing about this all, because, of course, we think of Fisher College, we think of strong, heavily invested strong teams and whatnot. The odd thing is, though, is when they have these scenarios where there's multiple teams like this. Because I'm used to thinking back in NACE and back in early Swiss rounds of Overwatch Collegiate Championships where Fisher would straight up murder us. But that was Fisher Freaks. Who is Fisher Esports?
Yeah.
So
there's also the Fisher Fiends, which did not advance into this round. They, unfortunately, are not going to have the Fisher duel up there. Winthrop is going to take that one. And it looks like
no Fisher team kill this
time.
Yeah,
it looks like they DQ'd even, because I don't see a scoreline.
I am going to bite my tongue on that one, but to be fair, it was up against Winthrop, which is probably one of the top seeds there. So even if that match played out, if I were to be a betting man, I'd probably bet on Winthrop in that kind of scenario. But taking a look at some of these other matches too, Maryville University up against Illinois State, don't count out Illinois. We know Maryville are absolutely cracked, but Illinois is solid in their own right. Winthrop versus Fisher, of course, that should be insane as well. You have two teams with basically ex-Overwatch League pro talent. That is going to be absolutely disgusting. The fact that they have to play in winners' quarters is a sacrilege. At the same time, though, you've got Northwood versus Rutgers. Rutgers is one of the teams that kind of surprised me, to say the least, because I know they're usually pretty solid. I didn't expect them to be this solid here. In fact, if I recall correctly, the show projected portion, if you went onto this website, has them to win this whole dang thing. So, up against us in theory. So, Rutgers, the sleeping bear of this group, maybe? We'll have to see.
It also projects Saints to win this next game against Fisher Esports, leaving us to go on May 17th up against the Scarlet Knights, and we'll have the run back in the grand finals as well.
Yeah, here's the power-up we need. Saints Overwatch, you want to celebrate Mother's Day, right? Let's win this thing. So could go play on the 17th instead of having to play on Sunday. But still going to be no slouches, though. Of course, Fisher Esports, it may not necessarily be the Fisher Freaks that I know, but if it's Fisher, I know they're not going to be any slouches once they are actually on the field. So with that being said, though, we are going to take a very, very, very quick break. Any final thoughts, actually, though, before we close out for this first match of the night?
I'm just excited to see this. We've seen a lot of crazy teams and a lot more resistance from University of Washington than we maybe even initially expected. That was a very close game every single time. For a team that is projected to be in the grand finals, they brought that all the way there every single time. So props to University of Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a Saints fan, that does make me a little bit nervous. But on the production side of things, that makes me excited because we know we're going to have some more banger matches coming right around the corner. Of course, starts at 9:30, so basically anytime. We're going to take a quick water break before we get into Fisher Esports versus St. Clair College.
Hello everybody and welcome back. After a hard-fought victory in round 1, we have advanced to round 2 and we are going up against Fisher Esports. I believe it is their main team. So this is going to be some heavy hitters here.
Yeah, if we're going based off of what we're seeing in Twitch chat, they've been saying that this should in theory be the main roster, but at the same time, I'm still not necessarily not that I'm not convinced. I do want to say I believe Twitch chat, but with the sheer size of Fisher's roster, who knows which 5 we're actually getting on the field. It's not supposed to be a flight. That's a good thing. I like when teams have big rosters so you can make these kind of changes. But should be a crazy one nonetheless. If this does actually end up being the main roster, and I was worried about Fisher Freaks, I feel like I should be really worried going into this one for our Saints.
Of course, on paper, if Twitch chat is correct, this should be a very hard match going forward for the Saints.
You said the word.
What?
Anytime I cast, if I say that if something is on paper, usually the reverse happens and it ends up being a sweep one way or another. So
well, that's what the Saints want. So hopefully the Kaiser curse works. But we want good games nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So we're hoping that curse goes through. But I think that the Saints should do a decent job. They're riding the high of a relatively difficult game. They push themselves to the limits. So now they should be all warmed up and ready for this one. But Fisher had a quick 3-0 if I'm not mistaken. So they should be riding high as well. I don't know. This could go either way. Once again, we're on Antarctica. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, Fisher College kind of flew through the game versus ASU in 3-0 fashion. So they've been warmed up, ready to go. We have Cabe Lukewarm, Riker, Grapes, and Neb there on the side of Fisher College, which I feel like I've seen some of these tags before, and I feel like we are going to have ourselves a strong one up in this game number 1, and Riker is actually going to get the first 2 eliminations and push Saints off the point.
Yeah, Riker finds 2 off the bat, big picks, and now this is looking to be very dicey for the Saints. Noxious doing good work here in the backline, but not good enough as Neb gets the melee kill.
And just like that, Fisher's going to get the first initial capture here. No ultimate's going to be on deck or anything as of yet. Noxious looks like they're the closest to actually getting it. But Saints just being pushed around, so to speak, to start this one up. Razor on this Genji was pretty effective versus them. Or in the match versus University of Washington. You can kind of see Fisher, as of right now, they seem, anytime that Razor even gets exposed for a second, just blasting any sort of DPS they can onto him. And Riker actually gets extremely low. The dive bomb through here, looks for the health back, is going to barely get it for the Saints, kicking him down, and this could turn this one around. That is going to be a 2 for 1 so far in the Saints' favor. I do think, and Red X slowly but surely with the rest of the Saints are going to be able to take this one. Was a little bit scrappy, wasn't necessarily the cleanest, but they got the job done, and they're going to be able to retake this thing.
There's a high noon coming up from Lukewarm when he finds that pick on the Lucio. Things are already looking to be flipped for the Saints. Amalga's going in. Riker already disrupting the back line, but a little bit too aggressive of a play. Gets burned down to nothing.
Okay, so apparently he's not the tankiest of tanks in this regard, or the Saints' focus fire was just on another level here. Razor are going to do a little bit of extra cleanup work here with Lukewarm as well. So they charged on through, got immediately answered. Good job there for the Saints to pull that one together. But Fisher, only the one ultimate on deck. They are actually on the back foot.
Yeah, they are on the back foot here. But they still are in the lead in terms of points. The Saints still have to hold this one strong for at least 10 more seconds or so. As the points are now ticking up, they have 12 more points to get. There's a lot of ults committed. There's Razor with the Dragon Blade going through, chopping them through the sound barrier even. And now things are just looking all Saints-sided now as they begin to stretch into the lead.
I mean, they matched sound barriers, and sure, the Dragon Blade came up, but just a 1 elimination was all it needed to make Fisher go back to drawing board and just wait for the next fight. Next ultimate on deck for them will be from Riker. They're on the Malga, but it will be very well answered unless Riker can find a pick like he just did right there. Soak's going to be falling down. Those machine guns may be rapid firing, but those headshots still hurt, and they're able to take the Saints down. And actually, Fisher is not quite contested the point just yet.
Yeah, they're gonna go in here. Riker does have the cage at the ready. If they manage to at this point, it's gonna be very quick. Lukewarm takes down Red X in there. 2 fall down, 3 fall down as Lukewarm gets a double kill. This is looking like Fisher might be able to take this one. That tank ult, if they use it on any of the 2 of the backline or just that tank to isolate them away from the point, things could look very dicey for the Saints.
I mean, by the time this next team fight does go down, both teams will have a couple of additional ultimates, a couple extra tools in the arsenal, and it's just going to be a matter of can they find the picks, can they find the positioning necessary to get this. That's going to be Noxious actually just going to force the hand of Fisher to jump down to try and contest them, or at least match with a 1v1 duel, which is what it looks like they're doing onto the point. The cage is going to come on down here. It stopped Noxious actually, but it keeps them alive so long. How is he hanging on here? But is barely going to be down.
Wow.
Cabe though, with a big pulse bomb, securing the double kill. It is all on Fisher to charge on through here, secure game, or not game, but map number 1.
Yeah, Kabe getting another as well, and no one there to contest, no one there doing this into overtime. That is going to be Fisher taking map 1, but the Saints did put up a good fight.
And that was so close too. They kept Noxious alive, even though it was chained down like that for so long. And it wasn't until everything, all the cooldowns, all the abilities stopped. Pulse bomb, beautifully timed, just securing the double onto Tread as well as Soaks. And with 1 healer down and your big tanky front line down, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can really do there as a DPS and 1 support versus 5. So beautifully done there from Fisher. They found their opportunity. Nice little awkward choke point to get the Saints the fight into. Played right into their hands and take the first round.
Yeah, now going into the second round, the Saints gonna have to play this one a little bit more. I would even say a little bit more aggressively. They're being a little bit too tentative to not taking the fights where they should. They're still doing a great job. Now they're bursting in on the site. This Malga looking to make the first move. They need to play a little bit more reactively or wait for him to push. But Kabe putting the pressure on the sidelines. The Tracers are dueling. Looks like Noxious going to be the one to fully commit here. Move in, get very, very low. Going to have to force to use the recall. Malga's right behind him.
I mean, both the Tracers were extremely low there for just a moment's time, but nobody falling. Saints are going to be on the point, but here comes Amalga. It's going to be Riker charging on through, trying to disrupt. Has a little bit of backup as well. Lukewarm taking care of Red X is going to make things messy. Riker also found Noxious, so with 2 players down, the Saints are going to really have to work hard for this one, but Tread falling is going to basically be the nail in the coffin here for this first initial push. Fisher College going to pick up the point and start getting some percent.
Now, Fisher College once again in the first control position. Start racking up the points. We see Tread accept the Malga duel. We're going to see a lot of damage dished out on both sides now.
All right, guns ablazing this time by here between these 2 machine gun welding monstrosities as we are going to be moving on forward for this next attempt at a retake. We see all of Fisher's basically up on the stairwell. Sure, they're going to give up a little bit of capture, I guess capture percent, so to speak, but they're going to be able to hang on to the point itself.
There's a sound barrier.
Yep, sound barrier going to come on through, but a big play there. Fraser finds 1, but can he find some additional ones? No, Noxious, though, is right there alongside Soaks, and with the pulse bomb in hand, it might not even have to necessarily use it. A very, very scrappy fight turns in Saints' favor, and they're going to get themselves on the board here.
A very decisive fight for the Saints, able to take them all down, but Kabe still doing a great job at keeping everybody occupied. They're unable to take them down, but there's Razor with the finishing blow.
All right, good on the Saints to be able to stagger that too. So that's going to be a solid 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds or so of guaranteed no 5v5 team fight. Basically going to bring this game to even 45-45, but now with multiple ultimates on deck here for the Saints. They should have at least 3 by the time that we get this fight going down. Maybe 2 on the side of Fisher. Granted, 2 very possible high-impact ultimates at that as well. But I hear the Dragon Blade. Tread alongside Razor going to be diving on through. The rest of the Saints going to just clean house as well. Red X and Noxious going to be getting themselves some credit on the kill feed as well. The Dragon Blade might have been popped. Razor's not going to get a kill, but everybody else on the Saints are going to clean up and secure this one.
Now everyone's falling down there. 51% and climbing. The Saints finally in the lead. They might be able to take this one, especially if this pulse bomb gets the utility it needs to. Gabe gonna have one as well. Both Tracers fishing for that perfect time. looks like Noxious is already jumping in onto the backline, doesn't find the stick, doesn't find any util, and now gonna play around this cage that Tread has charged up, and he's moving in, he's looking to use it, he does it, that's a big cage, getting a lot, gonna get trapped, gonna get all the damage pushed out on him, he's trying to stay up, but his team cannot sustain him as Neb gets him down. Noxious gonna find a pick as well, and Razor using all that damage and chaos to whip the Saints into the lead.
Matthias, I've seen this before, they fired off the cage in such a close quarters area. I was looking at Cabe that whole time. Where's that bomb coming in? They're so squished together. Can you get it? Could not seal the deal this time by, whether it was the healing or the positioning. The Saints were able to persevere. Emergency wrecking ball coming in to try and make contact is not going to happen. Soaks with a little bit of extra interference going to slow them down, and we have ourselves a tie game.
Yeah, it's 1-1. It's all up in the air, and who will take this first map? And I have a feeling these maps are going to matter so much with how close these games are getting.
Absolutely love to see it. We were hoping for fireworks, so we're absolutely getting it already, and this is just game one. But absolutely some crazy stuff here. I'm gonna see Cabe for the Torbjorn, but granted, we still have 15 seconds yet. I'm not gonna try and analyze this team yet, because let's be honest, I'm gonna analyze it and then it's gonna switch last second. But now that I said it's gonna be Commentator's Curse, so we'll see momentarily here. It would be pretty odd to see no Tracer on this side of Fisher. They're actually gonna run it.
We're going to see the Tracer on the side of St. Clair, you're right. Going to go for the Torbjorn, which is an interesting play. Not quite meta, but in the right hands can be absolutely lethal and annoying to deal with.
I mean, you get yourself into a post, or I keep calling it a post plant, but if you get yourself in the defensive position, that's actually like solid nonetheless and pretty consistent, but you have to get there first. But Grapes actually is going to just pull up the DPS pants apparently there on that Lucio and just shred Razor, which is going to allow for the rest of the Fisher College squad to take this point pretty well uncontested.
And now they are going to be in that defensive position. Like you said, that turret can be just so dang hard to deal with. And Torbjorn also, if things go awry, his ultimate is amazing at area clearance as well. So this is looking to be a good spot for Fisher. Now, Tread gonna lead the charge with his team on this Mauga to find something. Can't quite get it. Lukewarm, a lot of pressure. This Mauga has chosen him as the one to die, but the Immortality Field keeps him up as Nab takes down Tread.
Okay, that's just very unfortunate there for the Saints. Sure, a solid opportunity there for Tread to try and get a pick onto a DBS, but there was just too much focus fire. Got taken down before Lukewarm did go down. Noxious going to try and at least answer back there. It does manage to take care of Lukewarm, but Grapes again on this Lucio, finding some finishing blows in this one to get this Fisher College squad up to about 45% and counting. Saints need to try to take the retake.
Try and take this retake indeed. It's going to be contested out though. It's 50%. They need the flip end soon, but it's not going to quite go. Soundberry committed. They're going to still be up. Gabe has the ult in the pocket now as well. Razor going to go down. Riker getting another kill as well. Gabe going to take one down. Riker getting a double kill. The Saints just unable to even touch a foot onto this point.
This is exactly what Fisher College's team composition, I feel like, was trying to aim for, and they're playing it out exactly as they need to. Saints only have really one more opportunity here to try and combo up something and mess with this, but this is so awkward between a Molten Core and a Deadeye. Those are two fantastic ultimates at stalling big locations and just doing area denial. So as soon as the Saints try to make a move, expect Fisher to try and deny it.
They're going to try and deny this one out. Lukewarm trying to use the High Noon, gets a lot of util. Cabe going to use a kill on Tread there. Lukewarm getting one as well. They're just unable to touch. They almost cap the point, almost get a good push. But with Red X down, the overtime is activated, but with no one able to touch, this point is going to go over to Fisher College.
Played that composition to perfection. Beautifully done there for Fisher College in this third round of game number one. I was kind of knocking the Torb a little bit, but I said there is one condition where it would be like perfect, and they honestly found it immediately. Lukewarm gonna get credit here with this play of the game.
That's a great job there, Cabe, finding one. Gonna find another. That was just as accurate as you need to be, cleaning up all the damage his team did. Props to Lukewarm finding those final picks.
And again, just fantastic job overall there for Fisher and the Saints. I mean, they fought hard, but there was something about that third game that just did not go their way in the slightest. And I guess the one thing that I'm like, the more that I think about this Torbjorn pick there from Cabe, if you have the Malga, whose main job is just to jump on top of a DPS player, I kind of forgot he's got a shotgun, right?
Malga?
Or not Malga, but Torbjorn.
Oh, Torbjorn, yeah, he does have a shotgun. He has a slug and then a shotgun.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you can actually kind of burst Malga. So, okay, a little unconventional. And the fact that they were able to get that first initial capture and then just control it from there and make Saints' life just extremely difficult to even get close was just pure perfection there, as we have a couple highlights from the first game.
You see, look at that. That pulse bomb was absolutely nasty. Just what do you even do after that if you're the Saints? But Saints still answered back with some great plays of their own, especially on the second point. Played it very, very well. Of course, Fisher did get some cap on there. They were just unable to win most of these team fights.
Yeah, of course, this was for round 2 there for Saints to get on the board. The little boop there, it doesn't look like much, but the little boop there from Soaks to try and stall things out, it did make it so it was too late there for Riker to get onto the point. But then, of course, his third game, it was just played to perfection there from Fisher College. Got the first initial take, and they've just been able to defend and counterattack anything that the Saints wanted to play, to the point where their very, very final push, they had to go up against a Molten Core and a Deadeye. I'm sorry, that's like 30 seconds of stall right there. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it was great plays from both teams, and I'm excited to see what's in store coming up. What do you think the Saints could do to try and turn the tides for themselves?
If they have map choice, let's not go to Midtown again. But it depends. With this league, it very well could be preset maps. So that's why I think we got Antarctic Peninsula the first 2 times. But honestly, both of those games, like for the first round and the third round, both of those were basically just outplays of sorts. The first round was very, very close neck and neck, but they just got caught in a choke. And they got wrecked by the cage and the pulse bomb combo there from Fisher. Like, it's just an unfortunate positional error that did cost them. Game 3 was a bit of a compositional play, and Fisher needed, again, just a certain thing to go right. They did get it right, and then it was just basically running into a brick wall from there. So I would actually give it that it was just 2 solid outplays, but the Saints don't necessarily have to go to the drawing board of sorts. It's one of those situations where I wish I could have that exact same scenario again, and let's go at it again. I feel like I could do better the next time. So I hope they don't do anything too drastic, because I feel like it was still extremely close.
Yeah, I think going into this next payload map, though, it's going to be very difficult. You can tell that Fisher really likes being in these clear-cut scenarios. That's where they thrive. Saints, I think, thrive a little bit more in the chaos. They know how to turn the game on its head, and then that is when they swoop in, take things all the way to the end. But when it comes to these traditional kind of fights, team-based fights, they sometimes struggle when it's just a pure game of skill. Of course, both teams very, very skilled, but Fisher sometimes can just pull off some crazy plays.
Absolutely. Game number 2 now. This is in Midtown. This is a place we know all too well. Kings Row going to be the pick here for game number 2, and it looks like our Saints get to attack first. Let's see if they can breach this point nice and quick, because that will basically kind of tell the tale of how this round is going to go. This is definitely a notorious map for either being close to a 3-point finish or a full hold. Let's see what kind of game we get.
Let's see, indeed. Riker go in already. Tread leading the charge on the Winston. But Riker on the Ramatra is an interesting choice. I don't know how well this one's going to hold up here. Not as much to rally behind, but I'm sure those annihilations are going to hold this first point for a long time.
Yeah, a little bit less of a hyper-aggressive dive and more of a standard kind of tank for what we're kind of used to seeing here.
Wow, Tread and
But,
Redix.
oh my goodness, Redix again. The headhunter here with these kunais on that Kiriko is going to shut this one down. And with the way that this map's laid out, this point is all but captured here for St. Clair. Needed something to go right, and between Tread and Redix finding it, I think they've got it.
Grape's going to try and stall it up, but Razor going to knock him down, and that is going to be a near perfect cap for the Saints.
Now, honestly, solid attempt there from Grape. A valiant effort to try and stall this one out, but this is exactly what I expected here. Saints have just been so accustomed and so well rehearsed at breaching that specific point and getting this payload so early that that point was basically inevitable. This part I kind of worry about, though. This archway is always hell to try to deal with.
Yeah, this is probably the toughest point to push right here. Could be held up for quite a while. It looks like Fisher is going to try and do that. Saints are making decent progress, pushing on through, putting a lot of pressure in here. Razor on the Echo, going to try and deal out that damage, try and get them to look the other way. With that turret as well from the Torb, it's going to be too much to handle. They're going to have to back off.
And one thing that's kind of messing with the Saints right now is Tread is not allowed to basically be as aggressive as he likes to be. We oftentimes see him like aggressively leading the charge, knowing that he's going to be healed and just diving right after squishies, but he's just not been able to consistently do that here, as we do see both the DPSs actually trade each other out alongside with the rest of the Saints here, just finding utility. That is going to be Cape's Torbjorn making a return once again. Redix, though, taking care of Riker, could be the door opener here for the Saints, but Lukewarm actually has a red-hot gun this time by. He may not have a tank, but he's finding his shots and keep the Saints pushed back.
Yeah, the Saints are going to be pushed back even further here. Or Fisher's going to be pushed back even further. Saints just leading the charge. And now, with the ball rolling, they're making pretty good time here. If they can get this checkpoint, things will be looking very, very good. But now, looking at the ults on board, Annihilation, Soundbarrier, and a Molten Gore, this is not looking good for the Saints. They have a lot of things they can do to clear this point out. But Razor going all the way on the flank, maybe looking to use this copy. Not going to use it quite yet. Going to try and save it. And there's the overclock coming out from Noxious, leading the charge, putting a lot of pressure on Fisher. They have to use the sound barrier here. Will they use another ult? No, they will not, but that sound barrier seems to be enough to push the things back just a little bit.
I mean, Riker was extremely low as well, but they expect this next fight to be a little bit weird because, sure, here comes the Molten Core, but who doesn't care about a Molten Core? How about Razor, who's up in the skies, who's now switched on over to this Ramatra, and with the rest of the Saints plowing on through, just an absolute unit through this one. Chase down the Torbjorn to get that finishing blow. That is a wipe. Cape's going to secure one, but you cannot secure the cart like that. Saints are going to get the second checkpoint.
Yes, Saints making really, really good progress here. And now they cap it out. Pops the Annihilation, maybe a little bit prematurely there.
Oh, that's you're gonna be wishing you kind of had that one back. But still, now nothing in the tank but Red X's ultimate this time by. Fisher definitely gonna be sitting pretty if they can just use their ult economy wisely. There's going to be the Annihilation coming out here from Riker, and with the Saints so grouped up like that, they're going to have to run back wisely, running back into the spawn room. Let's let that time out.
And that's when you're going to wish you had that Annihilation to answer that one. I think they just use it to try and get the stragglers, but there were not too many to deal with.
Yeah, got the job done nonetheless. He secured that checkpoint. But now, with the Deadeye coming out here from Lukewarm, can he find an elimination? The rest of the Saints are just going to hide around the corner. Not going to bother trying to challenge that. All of the Fisher College squad basically on top or around this cart here. We see Riker just brawling on this point here. Good invulnerability matrix to save the one player from Fisher. For now, Riker actually and the rest of Fisher College going to charge up through, take away the support line. It's only a matter now that matter of time before Razor goes down as well. And that is going to be another team wipe here for Fisher. Going to secure that one. Cape now, ultimate on deck.
They still have that pulse bomb to play around to try and cycle out some more ults, cycle out some more time, and wait for the rest of the team to catch up. The Saints very, very close to some of these very powerful ults. There's the overclock, and the sound barrier is not too far behind. They're looking to push on through very, very soon. And there's the overclock from Noxious. Going to put a lot of pressure on the enemy team. doesn't find a kill, finds some util, but finds a kill on Neb, looking for another, but Soaks and the rest of the team is going to push on through. Noxious finding a triple, looking for the quad just to finish it off. Just one more hit, and he finds it.
Beautifully done and beautifully timed. The Saints were able to push on that. Noxious able to pop the ultimate. There was no defensive ultimates in sight. No sound barrier, no window even. Just pure open DPS. Noxious able to capitalize on that with the rest of the Saints, trying to get this around the S's so you just have the one final straightaway until you get that third pick. But Lukewarm gonna shut things down before it gets too messy. Dragon Blade immediately answered though as the Deadeye was happening. It's actually gonna be Red X who gets credited with the headshot onto Lukewarm with that Kudai. And now Racer kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. This fight isn't done yet.
There's the annihilation being committed from Riker, trying to push them back with all his might, and it might have just worked.
Right.
The Saints are falling apart here. Grapes gets a double kill, and Riker gets a last punch on Red X.
Okay, Grapes and Riker and the rest of the Fisher College squad going to at least stall this out for a little bit more. However, I feel like the hard part there for the Saints is done. We got it through the S's. We just got to get through that final straightaway there. But with Tread having this annihilation, if they can pair this up there with maybe Red X's ultimate or something along those lines, it could be absolutely devastating if they clump up. But if Razor gets picked up so quickly, that'd be extremely short-handed. Actually, Tread is going to be the first one going down. Neb is going to find the first elimination there and really put a stifle here onto the Saints offense.
Now they're going to keep it on here as they are struggling to just push in on through. They committed the annihilation, but they didn't get any value out of it. They tried to play into the Kirk roll, did not quite work out for them. They're going to once again have this overclock very, very soon. They have to move very quickly as there's only 45 seconds left on the clock.
Cave with the pulse bomb's going to slow this down even more, and we only have 40 seconds left to go here. Very similar to what we've seen in a past match. The Saints are going to have to basically full send on the final push. And what will they have in regards to utility? Basically just Noxious's ultimate, who's going to start charging on through. Immediate sound barrier, though, the answer.
Got a sound barrier to answer. It's not going to look too great. They need someone to at least touch for the overtime, as that point has rolled back quite a bit. They're back to nearly where they began at this point. No touches in sight to stop it. Now with 10 seconds left on the clock, things are going to be down to the wire. Tread is trying to get the last second contest touch here. Can he do it? He just might be able. We're in overtime now. The Saints need to carry it as far as they can. They use a sound barrier of their own. It's their last ditch effort. Riker popping the annihilation is going to use that to try and burst on through, but Trey getting a double. It might not work out for them. Cabe getting one right back. Razor trying to burst down this Ramatra, and they manage to do so. The Saints making one last second blitz to the end. It's a duel between the Tracers. Can they take him out? Razor gets a trade with Grapes, and Soak's going to take that one down as well. Tread taking this one just a little bit further. They have Blade to play around. They might have another Annihilation to play around as well. The Saints play their cards right. They might be able to take this one to the end.
All right, it's now or never here for the Saints, but they want to try and get to this final checkpoint, but they must have somebody on that cart at all times. They've gone through the S's. The final straightaway is in sight once again. Riker back on over to the Malga that did so well in game number 1. Can they make it work again here? Dragon Blade coming out here from Razor. Looks for one, but he got stuck immediately! Cave gonna shut that down before it gets any value, and the Saints are gonna get shut down.
Yeah, tried to use the Annihilation a little bit too late and got bursted down by everyone on that team. And the Saints gonna bring it very, very far, but will it be far enough to contend with Fisher's push? We shall see soon enough.
That's the thing, right? I mean, that's still a solid push in its own right, but there's been so many of these Kings Row games that I see that are just being decided while you're basically on that final circle, like on that landing pad of sorts. So we'll have to see how Fisher College plays this one out. Again, all momentum starts on that first point. If Fisher can blitz this thing very similarly to what the Saints did, we are going to have a hell of a fight on our hands. But if the Saints could even hold off one team fight, take that time down to like maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds compared to 4, that is going to put a lot of pressure on that Fisher College squad, because they will not have as much wiggle room in that streets phase to get there. Brutal.
Yeah, things are looking pretty dicey for the Saints. If they can blitz through like the Saints did on this first point, it's going to be very, very tough. I think the Saints will be able to hold this one, though, a little bit longer than Fisher. They know what to look out for. This Malga doesn't have the same vertical movement as Winston, so they can use the high ground to their advantage here. They have a few more options, but still, it's going to be a very hard-fought hold.
And we do see the Saints in a little bit more of a spread out position, which, I mean, could be a blessing or a curse here. If one of them gets picked off, then, I mean, you're already fighting that team fight 4v5. As we do see Cabe, not going to waste any time with any sort of Torbjorn shenanigans. It's going to be strictly on over to the Tracer to try and mess with people up on the high ground. We do see a handful of the Saints position, but they're going to, Fisher's Collegiate squad going to be going through the house, try and get the flank, decide which way do they want to end up going here. But with them all grouped up, it could be the reverse as well. Maybe some AoE damage. We'll see.
To make progress, we're seeing a big fight happen here on this point. It's already being contested out. You know, try and take out the Tracer. Can't go get it. Gets a big health pack as well. Cabe on this back line. No one able to take him out. That's the point of the Tracer. Just annoy and stall for time. Try and get them looking in the wrong directions because you need to use these sightlines to your advantage. Riker moving in on this Ramatra and doing so much damage. Can they survive it? And they just might be able to do it. The ultimate defense is going to be broken though as Riker bursts it on through. And now, with just a minute or so off the board, it's looking like Fisher is going to be one to claim, but Razor not going down without a fight.
Okay, so that's really, really odd because that initial fight took so long to actually happen that it might as well have been a lost team fight. But relatively convincing there from Fisher. They did absolutely exploit the fact that the Saints were all so separated. You did have, of course, the Kiriko that can do the single target healing, but it does require you to kind of be in line of sight. And there was too many things just interfering with that. And with, of course, Soaks and Lucio wanted to be essentially right next to the person that he's healing. It did not really put Tread in a good position, as we now see Deadeye coming on through. Tread extremely low, but is barely going to get out with his life.
Just barely gets out. Tread trying to block out this Malka, but the damage is just so strong. Also has the dot, the burn. It's just so hard to deal with. Now Riker move on through, try and take somebody with him. There he is. He's trying to single out the squishies. Can't quite do it. Susan comes through to clear the burn, but it's not going to be enough as the cage comes through. And now this is going to be a boxing match between the entire team and the Malgi. Finds one, finds two, finds three, finds four for the team. That's going to be nearly a team wipe for the Saints. There's just one left. It's going to be the Tracer, of course, the slipperiest one. Does not get out. And Nox just going to stall for time, but still falls to Grapes.
Okay, I'm not sure if I missed this or what. I saw Soaks using the sound barrier. I feel like I never actually saw this shield come out. Did he get knocked up into the skies or something? Because the idea was right. The cage came down. He was popping sound barrier, but I saw no shield at all there. It just completely eviscerated the Saints before anything could really get done. Granted, now Saints will have 3 ultimates on deck, but it sucked to see that defensive ultimate just get burned and get no value.
Yeah, almost gets a stick on the Lucio. Wrong place, wrong time. Tries to get a stick of his own. Just misses, though. Cabe gonna probably win this Tracer duel. And now Lukewarm taking down Shred. No tank the player, and the Saints are just gonna be in absolute shambles going to the second point. The momentum from Fisher is just absolute as they keep on taking them down. It's like a cycle. The Saints funneling in one by one, trying to get an advantage. They can't quite do it. And Lukewarm, look where he is. He's already in front of where the payload needs to be, taking that space.
Yeah, they took all the space that they possibly could here, and to be fair, if they could bring it right up to where they're standing, they only have like a tiny little bit left to go to get a full 3 or the full cap here and win this one. And with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go, Saints only having the Kiriko ultimate, it is very, very troublesome position here for your Saints. Definitely not in their favor, but they're damn well gonna try.
Gonna try their darndest here as Riker is going on through. There's a window, there's a Kiriko wall. A lot of things are on the board here. Razor gonna go down there. Huge high noon from Lukewarm, taking out a DPS support line. Noxious gonna find K, but Riker gonna find the tank. Soaks, all that's left is Noxious, and he falls down as well. A team kill, and the cart too far to contest. This one is looking like it's gonna go over to Fisher College. Maybe we'll get a last second touch, but no. This is gonna be Fisher College taking the series to a 2-0 point.
All right, solid job once again there from Fisher. They are able to just get the ball rolling off of that first initial team fight, which granted was dragged out, but just could not stop them from there. Noxious is going to get credit here with this play of the game after going absolutely nuts here with this railgun, the opportunity where there was no defensive ultimates on board, just taking care of everybody. But even still, after such a fantastic play, the Saints could only get it to like the start of the straightaway, could not get it any further. But solid match once again so far here today.
Yeah, brilliant match from them. I just can't believe how well timed a lot of those plays were. A lot of those ults, and using Malga, which is not typically the strongest tank in the meta, but you can definitely see when you have the team player out, when you have the synergy, it can just be absolutely lethal and hard to deal with. And especially into that Ramatra, who, well, they have like some of the best defense in the game. You don't want to be sitting there as a sitting duck for that Malga to just lay all their bullets into you.
Yeah, like something like a Winston and Ramatra just seems kind of like a general like safe pick all around. Meanwhile, this Malga, if you know how to play it positionally, you just get so much value. As we go through a couple of these highlights here.
Razor.
This was a pretty sick one here from Razor, actually, because of course you're on that Echo that is going to be flying up in the skies and not care about a Molten Core. And then when you found your opportunity, ult on in. And it was, as we just saw, Noxious, of course, also getting the play of the game with this railgun kill.
Yeah, that was brilliant there. And Saints had some amazing plays in here, don't get me wrong, they're playing very well, but Fisher just seems to be having a little bit of a better runtime in these engagements when it comes down to it. They know how to play very defensively and hold these things down.
Absolutely, and then this is kind of the last-ditch effort here for the Saints on the offensive side of things.
I didn't want to say it, but I think if Razor somehow got out there of that, didn't die to that Lucio, things maybe would have looked a little bit different.
Yeah, immediately getting stuck like that,
That's
definitely
unlucky.
hurt. But good on Cabe there on the side of Fisher to just flick over and immediately drop the bomb. Just shuts down that offense.
This was massive.
And then, yeah, you got stuck. Just so many members of the Saints we see here. That's like 4, maybe 3 or 4 of them, and it just allowed for the rest of Fisher just tear on through. And that's where just the high value of this Malga pick can really come through, because while a Ramatra is going to just be that slow burn of that annihilation, or the Winston's just got like knocking everybody around and whatnot, the Malga ult, if you just use it on one person, it's like, okay, it's kind of target specific. It's like you kind of have to really, really think about when you use it. But if you can find the perfect spot, I feel like it just outvalues anything that the current meta tanks can do. So far good on Fisher for being able to run that. That's both games so far that they've been able to run that and run it confidently and make game-changing plays with that.
Yeah, that was a very good play all around from Fisher. But now going into this next map, if we remember correctly, this is going to be a flashpoint.
I think either that or push is what we're going to be going
It's
up
a
against
push.
this by. I was basically in your shoes the last game thinking if this was Nace or something, 1, this game wouldn't be happening, but 2, it would be Flashpoint. But we have, of course, push coming up. Saints, I think they took it in the last time, but they did not necessarily look comfortable, if I'm recalling it correctly, when we saw versus the University of Washington. But curious if we're going to see the same map or if we're going to see a different one this time by.
It seems like we're going to be on Esperance, the same map for push once again. And this is... I don't know which way this one is going to go. The Saints had a very good run in this push map. They brought it all the way to the end. Of course, there's some crazy fights here and there, but I think their enemy only got it halfway there. Washington only got it halfway there to the checkpoint, maybe a little bit further, but this should be a very good match on paper, but you never know.
We don't have much data, though. Because
on Fisher,
when we
yeah.
would see push in other leagues, it would be game 4 of a series. And how many times did we see Saints go past game 3 in a best of 5 this season? To be honest, very, very little. So, like, I feel like going to push, I don't know if I'm just being like really, really cautious about it, but I feel like this is one of the more under-practiced modes here for the Saints. I would love to be wrong, and maybe it's just a personal bias because I don't see it too much. But I do kind of worry here for the Saints going into this one.
Yeah, I do, and I also don't really. I think they're gonna have a good run. I think they're comfortable on push. It's a very hectic game mode, and they like that.
That does kind of fall in their
chaos.
favor in that
So,
regard. Sure.
You know, haven't seen this specific Fisher team play on push is the thing. Don't know how they perform, and they're very good defensively, but this is like the most attacking game mode you could have. You're pushing for that robot. It's attack, attack, attack.
I'm curious if you bring Malga back for this game mode, though, because it's not like you're necessarily able to set up a defense around this point, considering it's consistently moving. So I feel like the cage might be a little bit harder to pull off, but granted, they've been able to do it so far here in this game. I imagine that the Saints are probably going to do just some sort of Ramatra or Winston here for Tread and move on from there. If he sticks this, he's just making me eat my words, but I've never been happier.
No, he's not going to go for the Roadhog. Roadhog is probably the worst tank in this current meta. They enhanced the DPS passive, which reduces healing, and he's a heal tank, so it's not going to go his way. But I kind of like the pick here.
Fisher sticking to their guns. They've got the Torbjorn, they've got the Balga there for Riker. And then Grapes has been absolutely disgusting on this Lucio so far. Same thing with Lukewarm and Neb. They've just been solid all around here. Let's see how the Saints open up Razor instead of a flanking like Genji. Going for the Cassidy this time by. But Red X is going to get picked off. Bill Kiriko this time by. The Baptiste is going to get picked. And now Saints immediately getting pushed off the point. And the robot going to start going on over to the Fisher College favor.
Yeah, they just disrupted the backline with this Malga. The Saints just not really knowing what to do against this. They like to have that shield to rally behind on the Reinhardt. They're just hoping for the Shatter, I think, to try and truly disrupt Fisher's plays. But don't know if that's the right decision here. This Tread is going to have a really tough time pushing in, especially with this turret on the Torb.
Yeah, but where are they going to end up going here in this case? The Saints are kind of stuck in some really awkward corridors, which again, this is just where Fisher thrives. If they can kind of just keep them contained, keep them pinched in a very, very uncomfortable position, especially when some of these ultimates start getting in there, which is just right around the corner, 70% on a lot of the DPS members. Soaks is going to lead alongside, trying to keep the tank alive, and Riker is going to be the first to fall. Soaks is going to take care of that elimination. The Ken Saints capitalize. Tread here on the Reinhardt, trying to charge on it here. Does manage to get some control around the bot themselves, but not very many eliminations. Actually, it looks like Red X and Razor are going to charge ahead and secure 2 of them. So 53 meters or so here for Fisher, but Saints going to be pushing right back.
Yeah, they just barely did not get the first checkpoint as well. If the Saints can secure this checkpoint, they'll be in a very, very good spot. But if they lose this fight here and there, 2 more fights I think they have left on the board. If Fisher gets that first checkpoint, things are not looking good for them. Now,
there it goes.
Is up. They're going to try and play around that. There's the High Noon as well, taking Lukewarm down to nothing. Baking Immortality Field. Gonna try and swing for something here on the Reinhardt. Uses the High Noon. Can he take something out here? I think there's a sound barrier as well from Soaks, trying to keep everybody up. Razor taking one down. Reinhardt getting very low. Lukewarm getting one. Grapes getting another. No supports left for the side of St. Clair. They're gonna have to play very carefully as Lukewarm is just decimating their back line. And now, just right before that point, once again, it's gonna be a mad dash for the Saints, but the player advantage is on the side of Fisher, and they win the fight as well.
I mean, I know our Saints like some chaos. However, when there was just maybe a situation where it was too chaotic, there was too many things happening in too many different locations for the Saints to really capitalize on. And if anything, Tread there on that Reinhardt wants you to just kind of be bunched up in front of them in a death ball, just kind of forced an emergency Earth Shatter, which granted did take care of Riker, but there are still so many other members of Fisher all over the place trying to get some eliminations. But there, Noxious is going to finally get a little bit of a revenge kill here onto Cabe, which is going to allow the Saints to get some control over this spot for the time being. But again, this cage is just making things so awkward here for the Saints to try and get through, but they were able to answer this time by Red X with the last second save here onto their tank. Tread hanging on by a thread. Saints winning that team fight and going to take control.
Yeah, Soaks moving on through with Tread, the dynamic duo. The speed boosted Ryan is just so hard to deal with. Noxious getting one, closing the gap. It looks like the Saints are about to stretch into the lead as they get the first checkpoint.
All right, they managed to secure it, but still plenty of time on the clock here. 6 minutes, but still a ton of ultimates in the pocket here for the Saints. They're actually kind of sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, this is looking to be an interesting fight going forward. And hammer some just fire strikes down from above, trying to play the high ground with the team. They're playing for stall right now. They're just playing for time, as they know getting a full cap on this map is going to be very difficult for either of these two teams. There's the high noon from Luke. Gonna get hammered, gonna get shattered there, and now Redx getting a double kill. This is the opening the Saints need. Just absolutely run through Fisher College's push here. A team kill. They're gonna make some good ground here.
Okay, if that was a solo ultimate, I would have just been kind of laughing a little bit towards Tread, but apparently everybody lined up for that one. Beautifully done there from Tread and the rest of the Saints to find their opening and just absolutely crush that Fisher College squad this time by. They were able to get a ton of distance past that first initial checkpoint and are able to just slowly but surely extend their lead here in this push game and keep it on their side of the field.
They're just keeping it on Fisher's side, and they are unable to get it out of that halfway point, but now just might be able to do so. We're seeing the contest come out once again. Saints just being that annoying, keeping everything in place.
That's annoying. The pulse bomb does come out, but it eats nothing but invulnerability matrix there, so a big tool off the board. Noxious still has his, as well as Razor and Soaks in regards to ultimates. And with Grapes going down, that is going to make things extremely difficult here for Fisher to go up against any sort of hyper offense from the Saints. But if the Saints just try to go for a gunfight, they might, or Fisher might still have a chance in this one. Neb did manage to get the shutdown here onto Soaks, so even getting a little bit of bot push towards their way. So Saints are not, even if they win this one, they're not going to get as much distance as they would have wanted. Razor goes down. Riker takes a kill as well. And just a very, very awkward engage here that just goes directly into Fisher's favor. Wow.
Yeah, and now there's 3 minutes and 40 seconds left on the board. That's a lot of time for Fisher to maybe close this gap. But the Saints moving very quickly back into position. They're going to be itching for one big team fight here. They have window, and they also have that sound barrier as well. On their side, Warm taking the high ground here, looking to use a high noon soon enough. That Deadeye can be absolutely lethal. Usually we can see that it's going to be a tough fight, but I don't know how well this will go for either team, as the ults are not looking great on the side of St. Clair.
Yeah, they got the 2, but it's all defensive, right? And it's awkward here for the Saints. They do manage to lose control or lose this fight. This cart is going to go all the way into the Fisher zone, and Riker finds the first initial, or they trade eliminations here. Razor goes down, but so does one other on the side of Fisher. Soaks goes down as well. Riker's just been an absolute killing machine here. Neb going to get themselves onto the board as well, and the Cave is going to outduel Noxious this time by. And now that bot is pushing directly towards the lead in just about 10 meters away to take the lead in this one.
Well, the Saints were in the lead for majority of this game. Just losing it there closer to the end is putting them in a very rough state. They need to try and swing this one back in their favor. Gets the swing, but I think he's CC immune in his dash. Malga unaffected, gonna just barrel on through. Now the tank goes down, so does Redx and Razor and Noxious. That's pretty much everyone on the team, just Soaks remaining. Gonna have to try and play further back, and now it looks like Fisher's in the lead. With 2 minutes remaining, Saints have a lot of work to do to get themselves back in this.
And Riker with the call out, just completely disregarding that Earth Shatter. And the fact that there was nobody behind Riker as well means that Earth Shatter got absolutely nothing in regards to value. Pulse Bomb coming through from Noxious isn't going to find elimination either. The Saints are trying their damnedest to get some sort of control onto this bot, but it is for no avail. Fisher are just pushing this thing to all the way to the end, nearly going to full cap this thing with about a minute 30 left to go.
They're knocking on St. Clair's door, and St. Clair is now going to be forced to answer as they have a high noon left, and they're going to see the emergency panic swap over to Sigma. The duels were not working on the run. They're going to try something else here, try and deal with that overwhelming amount of damage spraying on through. They are trying to contest this one out. If they can just play for time, maybe bring it through in the overdone. Soak's getting very, very low. Cape getting a huge pick on Noxious. This is looking disastrous for the Saints. Razor, last man standing, gonna go for one last high noon. Takes out Lukewarm, but it's a little bit too late as he gets a high noon of his own, getting a double kill. Now the Saints just scrambling, trying to hold this one down as it's right before the point, and they just might be able to do it as Noxious finds a clean kill onto Grapes. They need to take care of this Malga, and they need to take care of him quick. He's going on onto the high ground. Gonna engage this Hanzo and the back line. He almost has this cage. If this cage gets unleashed onto the point, this is gonna be absolutely in Fisher's favor. Riker playing for the exit, just trying to retreat at this point. The Saints have retaken control of this robot. The Tracer just stalling for time. They want to make this an overtime push for Saints, but that's not gonna happen. This is gonna come down to the wire right here. It's in the Saints' control. Everything's in their hands. They might be able to push this one all the way to the end.
I mean, this is so much distance, though, the Saints have to cover. I feel like this is at least 2 team fight worth of distance that has to be pushed. Can the Saints manage to secure that one? We'll have to see in just a moment's time. The only thing that they're going to have right now is going to be that sound barrier with maybe the Sigma ult and just a moment's time as well. If they can combo things up, they need not just the one team fight, but they'll need another. They got it about a quarter of the way there, but Fisher is right here, ready to rock. Riker going to be diving on in, going to be popping up the cage, but here comes the Sigma ultimate, going to try to take care of one of the supports, but there's Ed Vulnerability Field, just going to stop that in its tracks. The Saints had a plan. It did not work. It is going to fall to shambles here in a moment's time, it looks like. Saints tried to do a little bit of a highway robbery there. They, to be fair, did push that bot pretty far, but it was only a matter of time. Fisher College going to take the 3-0.
Yeah, taking it 3-0. Saints put up an amazing fight, but they were just unable to close it out in the air in the end. They were in the lead for most of that game, but Fisher just woke up at like the 3-minute mark, knowing the time was nigh, and they took it there to the end. Tread, though, doing a lot of work on this run. This is an amazing shatter.
Okay, so it was just the 2 people there, but even still, just knocking Cassidy right out of the ultimates and then taking a support alongside that, yeah, that kind of throws a team fight pretty far in one side. So a solid play there from Tread nonetheless, but unfortunately for the St. Clair College squad, they are going to be knocked down into that lower bracket. Fisher Esports going to be taking that match over us in a 3-0 fashion. Well played all around. Some unconventional plays, but some rather smart plays as well. Definitely going to be looking forward to seeing how they end up doing in their next matches as well. And maybe we'll see them later on down the bracket as well.
And you said their next game is going to be Sunday, correct?
That is, I believe, the plan. So I believe this goes to Sunday at 2 p.m., basically right before CVAL. So it should be an action-packed Sunday of action coming up as we do go through a couple of our highlights here from game number 3.
Yeah, look at that. Riker just pushing on through, using those cages at the right time. Cabe getting just absolute amazing plays. And that was where it all turned around. If that shatter went off, I think this game would have been much closer. But the fact that 0 value was taken out of that shatter, it's just an absolute disaster.
I mean, a play like that doesn't just do a team wipe. That does a little bit of mental damage as well.
Psychic damage.
A little bit of psychic damage, exactly. Super effective because you had the play, you had it lined up. He just don't care. Just dives on through. But some fantastic plays there from Fisher Esports as a whole. Of course, kind of led here by Riker, but everybody on the squad did a fantastic job. Saints put up a good fight, to be honest. I wouldn't call any of these games a rollover, but Fisher still had pretty solid control across the board here.
Well, I'd say the Saints had amazing control for majority of this game. It's just that last final push. If that shatter landed, I think that was the fulcrum in which this whole match hinged upon. If that shatter went through, they would have had another team fight, pushed it back to the middle, would have been much more even. But the fact that they got it nearly all the way to the end, Saints just had too big of a gap to close, and Fisher ended up taking it.
Absolutely. I was saying that it took basically 2 team fights to get that distance. If that shatter made contact instead of being CC immune, that definitely could have been the one extra team fight that we were looking for. But overall, I guess to kind of recap the nights before we do close up, because we need to close up quickly, because in like 9 hours time we need to be right back here because we have some OC Championship Rocket League grade school and high school students going to be coming here for their Rocket League Championship Tournament, which will be streaming here, of course, starting at 9. But to kind of recap our match, of course, we had University of Washington versus St. Clair. And what did you think of that one?
That one was amazing. I got very loud there in the beginning because they were just so close games, such quality games every single time. Of course, St. Clair did end up taking, but I believe that one went all the way to the game 4. St. Clair taking 3-1 up against them. That first map was absolutely amazing. The following map also really good, but the payload map just absolutely went in University of Washington's favor in the end.
Definitely a good one, but of course gets to move Saints along at least one round. And then, of course, Fisher did take us out in 3-0 fashion, but a solid battle back and forth. We will see Overwatch once again here Sunday afternoon. That is going to be at 2 o'clock. And in theory, that's not going to be the only thing as long as nobody else takes the stream. But one way or another, CVAL bracket stage will also be happening. Round of 16 right around the corner. We were supposed to have a round of 32 match tomorrow, but how I was joking around how we get to playoff season and FFs happen. Granted, this one was due to travel issues,
Exactly.
but we won't have a match tomorrow for Valorant. So it'll be all Rocket League tomorrow. Sunday, we get to see Overwatch once again and some Valorant. But Matthias, any final thoughts here?
Yes, I do have some interesting information. Tonight, if you are in this area at least, this also might be why we had some tech issues and disconnects. There's a solar storm going on, so you can see the northern lights even all the way down here if you use some camera equipment. So it's pretty interesting if you're interested in that. So that's a little fun fact.
I made the joke earlier about a full moon, but maybe it was a little more intense than I thought. Okay, interesting. So, yeah, stay safe. Don't look at that directly, please, anybody. We don't want no Ricky the Blind Monk coming in once again before C-Lol. But that being said, I think it's about time to close things up here for tonight. Big thank you, of course, to Matthias for joining me here on the commentary desk.
You're welcome.
Do have, of course, Daniil, Amanda, Tommy, and I keep forgetting his name, but I know him as No Skill. No Skill. Here in the back rooms, making sure that everything was running smoothly. And definitely thank you all for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And of course, we can't forget to thank our sponsors. Thank you, Tim Hortons, HyperX, Subway, St. Clair SRC, and the St. Clair College Alumni Association. Don't forget to follow our socials to stay up to date on everything Saints-related tournaments, events, everything in between. If you want to follow us on any of these social media platforms you see on the screen right now.
Absolutely. Even though it's summertime, there's still going to be lots of action coming around. I know personally, between the postseason here for Overwatch Collegiate, C-LOL, C-VAL, and a Tetris series of Pokemon mid-season invitationals, we have a ton still happening here in the summer, so you don't want to miss it.
Exactly. And with all that being said, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for some Rocket League. Tune in then. We'll see you then.